know you can flip the switch. Everybody flips the switch. It's not a big deal.
You just do that into like Saturday morning radio show though. Like, hey, welcome back there. We're here tonight on Roundtable.
It's a noise effects, sound effects.
Every time before Ryan calls me for the NLSS, you should hear me the minute beforehand. I'm just like, all right, here we go. Oh, hello. Okay, it's time to stream.
For me, it's the sax from the intro. It actually gets me really pumped up.
For me, it's the sex. Welcome to the Roundtable podcast for February 20th, 2015. I'm Baer. I'm joined by Northern Lion, Matt's Games, Rock Smile over in these regions.
You never know where they are.
They're over here. I was pointing in like the one goddamn direction where you guys aren't. Right this way.
You are actually pointing to your own name on my contact list on Skype right now, which is fucking wild, man.
Wow.
It's strange.
That's me.
Point down like two more. I'll tell you who it is.
Hang on, right there.
Go way low, like no, it's like
way low.
Lower.
Lower.
You're making like you might have to unbend your elbow.
Where am I? Where am I right here? Who's this?
That's still Baer Tabby.
Oh wait, how the fuck am I still up here and then down here too?
You have like a now region over here somehow.
That's Dan Giesling down there.
Oh fuck him. All right.
What's up, Dan?
Welcome to the new show. Thank you very much, everybody, for the outstanding outpouring of support thus far for the program. Appreciate that a lot. The patreon.com/roundtable. It's been awesome, so thank you very much.
Everything's been awesome. We got a subreddit up and running. We've got our Twitter up and running. Everything's good, and I think this week we'll have the show up on SoundCloud as well.
Yes. It's there now. It didn't have downloads available. It actually does have downloads available now. I checked the box in Unity, and should be good to go for the future. And we're also looking into Stitcher, and there was another one somebody mentioned, but there's multiple ways down the podcast now, and we got the RSS feed available for those of you who like the direct subscription stuff there too. So
it's all farts on Fart Knocker, and then on Quiz Whizzle. If you wanted to give us just like a little flim flam up there, you can go ahead and do that.
Good.
Let's flim flam on Quiz Whizzle.
Speaking of flim flams, though, thank you very much for the iTunes reviews. We greatly appreciate those also.
I haven't read any of them.
I have.
They're all 5 stars anyway.
Nice.
There you go.
So we got one 3-star.
Beautiful people.
We got one fucking 3-star rating.
No.
That's honest, though. That's pretty good.
Is it?
They didn't say fuck these guys. They said, it could be better.
Who's dragging down the show? Who's taking away 2 stars? It's probably the goddamn Mathis Sweden flight, man. He had to take off and act like a superior human being. How was that whole experience, man?
Do we want to go over that now?
Do you want to? I'm willing to segue into it for you.
Sure. So PDXCON was great. For those of you who don't know, Paradox does a once a year kind of invites the press and YouTubers and stuff to come check out their games. This is my first time going. It was in Sweden. The last year was in Miami. The year before that, it was Iceland.
Correct.
And so they just hold it all over the place. It was my first time going, and it was really fun. I was in a group with Arumba, Quill, Angry Joe, and Other Joe. And
Other Joe?
There's another Joe?
Yeah. Do you watch Angry Joe at all?
Oh, it's like, so he's part of Angry Joe.
Yeah.
I thought there was like a guy that made a channel called Other Joe.
That's also what I was operating under the belief of.
Or that he's completely unaffiliated, but it's just defined by not being Angry Joe.
Yeah.
He's like, I fucking hate coming to this thing.
I mean, that was my first attempt back in like early 2011. I was trying to spin off Not NL for a little while, and I was just saying everything but The Binding of Isaac.
I feel like there was a missed opportunity. You know how there was the creatures? I feel like there was a missed opportunity to be like the Lion Pride. You had like Northern Lion, Southern Lion, Eastern Lion, Western Lion.
Yeah.
I mean, we're literally doing that right now, in a way.
Pretty much. That's what we're doing.
I mean, but
Cardinal Direction Lions.
You'll be hearing from my player soon about changing your online handles.
Oh, great.
By the way, what's your favorite Cardinal Direction?
I'm going to take East.
All right.
Please.
I like East, too, though.
Well, Matthew said it first.
Dibs, no blitz.
Rochambeau.
I mean, he's in the East. They're both in the East.
It's true.
I'm going to take the...
Probably Mathis.
Paradox
center of
try to focus on that. So I could talk about, I think, 3 of the games right now before the embargoes for the other ones lift. I could talk about City Skylines, EU4, El Dorado, and Magicka 2, I think. I'm okay to talk about Magicka 2. I don't think I could talk about Pillars of Eternity or Hearts of Iron 4 yet.
Do I have to censor you saying those names?
No. They know they were being shown. There was no announcements. That was a big thing for them this year. They know that was a big thing they talked about. No longer will Paradox announce games that they're not 100% sure are going to release. They learned a lesson with Rune Masters. Rune Masters with this kind of like RPG Nordic mythology thing that they were working on. It was like Johann's baby, and something happened where it just didn't pan out, so it had to get canceled, and they don't want to do that anymore.
So
no
at
Johann's baby.
PDXCON 2013, they showed this Cold War grand strategy game called East versus West.
That was another thing they talked about, yeah.
And I was like, whoa, that looks really cool. I can't wait for that to come out. And then they cancel it. Yep. And then last year, they're like, hey, we're going to be making this new game. It's new for us. It's called Rune Master. It's going to be like a tactical RPG strategy game. And I was like, oh, that looks really cool. They showed us the demo, and then they canceled it.
Yep.
So,
I mean, more props to them to have the balls to cancel games they don't think are going to work. Because not a lot of companies would do that. But I understand not wanting to go through that, all song and dance every single time. So we can talk about EU4 El Dorado first. I think it's the one that I think has the least impact on the game. So the big thing coming with El Dorado, the expansion pack, is the ability to form your own nations. You can kind of set a difficulty from easy all the way to hard, and depending on what you pick will determine how many points you start with when you begin the game, and then you spend those points to pick provinces in the world to make your country out of, as well as pick how far along you are in certain technology trees, this, that, and the other. Mm-hmm. Within 10 minutes of showing it, a Roomba broke it to the point where he had an incredibly powerful nation with very few points, which was entertaining to watch. But it's really cool. I think that's something that I think we're going to be playing around with in our series when we finally roll around to it. I think that's what we want to do. But it allows, a lot more customizable kind of challenges. So maybe you want to start in a game, because you don't have to play the country. You can just make the country and then load it load to somebody else. Yeah. So you can do these things where you can make super powerful nations next to each other and then pick like a weaker nation and challenge yourself against these bigger challenges. Or you do the opposite, become super powerful on easy mode with 800 points and just roll over the world really quickly. It was interesting. They also have the ability with this new expansion where you can hit random and every country in the world is randomly placed elsewhere. So you could have like a Middle Eastern Muslim France kind of thing.
You should try that in real life.
Yeah, hit the random button. All right,
once every 10 years.
Can you make every country Canada?
Yeah, if you want to name it per Canada personally.
Well, technically, Nick, in 1444, there was no Canada.
There was no Canada. There was
Maybe
no Canada.
future Canada. I don't care when it happened.
What else is part of El Dorado? Oh, so the Aztec religion is getting introduced. The Aztec religion. Yeah, I know, right? Goddamn.
They've been asking for it.
The special thing with the Aztecs is you get a doom counter in the bottom right, because the Aztecs believed if you didn't sacrifice people to the gods, the world was going to end. So the doom counter goes up. If it reaches 100, your whole noble line gets murdered and basically fucks your country. It's basically the end of the world for you. The game doesn't end. You can still play, but you're in a bad spot. In order to bring the doom counter down, you have to have vassals, and you sacrifice their noble line to the gods.
Wow. So, that's fucked up, man.
Yeah, that's how the Aztec religion works.
So previously, it was already pretty cruel. You would find a smaller country, and you're like, I'm going to make you mine.
Yeah.
And then you would slowly basically kill everybody in the country until you got their land. But now you're just going to flat out execute the royal family to prevent the apocalypse.
Correct. Yep. So, and there's some neat events I was playing. That was what I was playing as during the demo the most. I was playing as the Aztecs. There's a lot of neat events that pop up that have you decide, do you want to bring your doom counter down, but bring the doom counter down, but also bring your prestige down. So it's like a net positive and negative. Or do you want to let your prestige go up, but let the doom counter go up? It was interesting. I enjoyed it. But other than that, I don't think El Dorado really brings much else. I think you can find El Dorado, but nobody found it while we were playing. And it's kind of a smaller expansion, but the big stuff is the create your own nations.
That's cool.
Yeah.
What happens if you find El Dorado? You just win?
There's an event that'll pop up. Yeah, probably a lot of money. You probably get a lot of money. There's a Fountain of Youth as well, which you can find. Ooh. I just don't know what that does.
It strikes me as maybe this being like the kind of a sillier, almost like CK2 style DLC.
Yeah, a little bit. It's a lot more about just being able to customize and make your own kind of game. That's really the big features they were pushing, because we did a stream, me, Arumba, Quill, and Johan did an El Dorado stream where we were just talking about what it's going to bring and how it's going to, what the changes are going to be to our multiplayer game, because that was the big topic, and what people were most excited about. So it was cool.
Told me.
You were there.
That was the big topic.
You were there.
Yeah, they used like a 15-year-old picture of me.
I know, you were there.
I was 11.
I fed you grapes. I fed you grapes the whole time.
All right, I'll watch that at some point.
I want to see that part of the presentation of them just bringing up childhood photos of you. It's like not even at all relevant.
The original plan was to put your picture up and have candles all around you lit, like in this really creepy, romantic, kind of way, or
like a shrine.
A shrine, like a shrine to him. But the candles are giving too much glare to the cameras. So
oh, that's a good point.
You sacrifice an effigy of Northern Lion for the Aztec religion, and that gives you like a big old bonus to your Doom counter.
Yeah, they were like
69 points.
They were saying to be as creepy as possible with the picture, so I tried. I rubbed your face gently. Yeah, and they said be as creepy as possible.
I'm all right.
Yeah,
you can do whatever you want.
It was fun. So the other one I know I definitely could talk about, I think people here are going to be a little bit more excited for, is Cities Skylines, which is not to be confused with Cities XXL, which people keep confusing online constantly. Cities Skylines is a SimCity style city builder, and I think it's the game that everybody loved the most, to the point where whenever anybody had free time, they were in the City Skylines room playing City Skylines. It's really hard to kind of describe, because it's like what the recent SimCities should have been. So you start off with a plot of land that's about equivalent to the new SimCity. But the difference is I forget what game it's like, but you can buy plots of land, up to 9 plots of land, around your city. Prison Architect. That's exactly what it is. So you can buy plots of land around your city to expand where you can build. So you can get bigger and bigger. And on day 1, they're releasing modding tools. So if you want to do more than that, you can by modding.
Dude, I was so excited when you said on day 1 they release, and I was like, they release like a horde of like zombies into the city or something like that, or like.
That would be perfect for Mathis, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be great for my channel. Let's bring it on. Much like SimCity, every citizen is tracked and simulated. They go to a job. They have a house. They don't drive home to a random house. They drive home to their house. They have their job. If they die and you have no cemeteries, there's dead bodies that stay in the house, which brings down the value of the house to the point where you have to break it down. You lay out residential zones.
That's nasty.
Yeah, it's awesome.
You'd think they'd at least make an effort to throw it in the compost pile out back or something. Right? They're not just gonna keep it lying around the living room floor. Like, oh, there's Grandma. I guess. Well, we don't know what the fuck to do about that.
LOL Renee. Yeah. Gassy Mexican's I think girlfriend. So she had a city. It was an awesome city, and she called it the Asshole. And she had it going really well, and all of a sudden, there was this swath of death just hit her city. Like everybody was dying all over the place. She was trying to figure out what it was. And what she had realized is she actually put the water consumption plant, whatever, downstream from the shit plant. So poop was pouring into the river, and then it was going into the river, going down river, and then it was going back into the city, and everybody was drinking poop water. And then they all eventually got sick and died.
That's a great little detail that they actually care about that.
Yeah, it's really impressive what they were able to do. What was more impressive is they didn't tell us until the end. It's running on the Unity engine.
Oh, really?
It does, they messed with it so much, it does not look like Unity at all. It's awesome, though. So like I said, you do residential zones, commercial zones, industrial zones. You have special buildings. They have little neat things where you can build statues in a memoriam of special things that have happened in your city. So she had so many people die in the city that it unlocked a special statue she could build because so many people died in her city.
From the shitpocalypse.
Yeah, from the shitpocalypse.
When our dumbass city planner built the shit plant right next to the water plant. Never forget.
It was pretty awesome, though. It's a great looking game. It's not like super, obviously, high-tech looking or anything, but it looks like toys almost. So buildings and little people are brightly colored, pretty simply modeled, but they look like toys. And it's like a little city they're playing with. It's cool. I liked it a lot. I don't know if you have any questions about it, because I can't think of anything other than that to say, but...
Is there multiplayer?
No.
Okay.
Single player.
I wanted to sabotage. I'm really fixated on the shit water interactions, and I really wanted to sabotage Nick's city by putting a shit plant downstream or upstream from his water facility.
That was actually a big selling point they were saying, is there is no online.
Okay.
So you don't
I can understand that.
And, all the things that goes with considering the problems SimCity faced. That's kind of a positive addition not to have that.
I was just going to say, that normally doesn't sound like it's something that they would be trying to adamantly sell you on, but it sure...
After everything that happened.
In this case, it's a positive.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And that comes out in March.
Few weeks, March something. I can't remember. They gave me a date, but I can't remember what it is. But it was really fun. I loved it. It was such a great game, and it made me want to play a ton. It reminded me of playing kind of not Banished, but just a good city builder, which I really wanted with SimCity and didn't get. So I'm excited for it. I don't know, what else did I see that I can talk about? Was there something else that I said I could talk about? I can't remember.
You did, but I don't want to bring it up in case you can't talk about
yes,
it.
Type it in the chat. Type it in the chat. What was it?
All right. I will type it in the chat.
I can't remember.
We're in a Twitch chat, everyone.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I could talk about Magicka 2. So the thing with Magicka 2 is it's a lot like Magicka 1.
All right.
It's really fun. We played it. We actually played it at PAX Prime.
We played it at PAX Prime, yeah.
It was basically the same. Same thing.
Look at me. I was there too. Hi.
Yeah, I know. It was great. It's basically the same thing that was at running on the Squid engine, which is the engine that they use for Magicka Wizard Wars. They have a lot of customizable options, so you can change like to the point where if you want to play a custom game with some friends, you can turn off no fire, like you can't use any fire magic, or you can say fire magic does 1,000% damage. You can turn off friendly fire, or you can say anytime you hit your friend, it does 1,000% damage, and like variations are there in between. Every time you kill an enemy, this was a fun combo we did. Every time you kill an enemy, you teleport to where the enemy died, and every time you kill an enemy, the enemy explodes. So every time somebody died, you would teleport. An enemy died, you teleport right onto the enemy as it blew up, and then you typically blew up as well. And then you have vice versa, like other things, like if an enemy died, it gives you like a healing wave. So a lot of like just customizable, more sandboxy elements to play with your friends with. That's a game you want to play with friends.
Did you play it on keyboard and mouse or on controller?
I played on controller.
Okay.
They had the PS4 set up.
I played so much Wizard Wars that I have like the combos embedded in my brain. And we played it on a controller at PAX, and I was like, "What is this shit?" Like, I don't know how to use this device.
Yep, it's the same thing. It was controller there. There was no keyboard and mouse controls, but I assume it'll be very similar to Wizard Wars as far as controls are concerned. So it was fun. Not much to say. More Magicka, which is not necessarily a bad thing if that's what you like. And then the other things like Pillars of Eternity, I can't really talk about other than it was really good. And Hearts of Iron 4. Even if I could talk about Hearts of Iron 4, I don't know what I could say because the time we had to sit down was not enough for a simple mind like me to figure it out. So, and that was PDXCON in a very quick nutshell. It was good.
Good. I'd love to hear your favorite element of the Iceland airport.
Or just the experience in general, just your life experiences.
Yeah. So I got stuck in Iceland, which I tweeted and made many videos about and bitched about really kind of a lot. I was supposed to fly home. It was a connecting flight from Sweden to Iceland and then Iceland to Boston. But that was during the time Boston was getting a blizzard. So we landed in Iceland, and then they were like, hey, your flight's canceled. It's like, great. So when's my next flight? They're like, we're going to send you to this hotel. We can't send you to any hotels in the main city because there's a music festival going on, and there are no hotels right now. So we got this little rinky-dink hotel in Keflavik that we're going to put you up in. Call this number when you get there. We'll figure out to get you on the next flight.
Man, you're telling me there's a music festival in Iceland that you could have been in attendance at? And you didn't go?
That day, the next day, it was done.
You were there.
Yeah, I was
you
there.
You could have gone, man. Come on.
That night, I was too busy trying to figure out when I was going to fly out.
They were doing that for you.
Yeah.
York
I had to call them.
At the same time.
Oh my God, man.
Damn. Oh, I missed out.
An Icelandic music festival that you just happen to be there, and
oh my God.
That's some Secret Life of Walter Mitty shit.
I got to the hotel. We all got to the hotel. I got there with a bunch of other people, and we all called, and we all got different stories from Iceland Air. I called, and the flight the next day was full, so I had to go on whatever yesterday was, Tuesday, fly out on Tuesday, and it was a direct flight to Boston. Another guy I was with called, and he was fucked and didn't get a direct flight to Boston. Instead, he had to get the same time I was flying out, like within minutes, he got a flight to New York, which then flew him to Boston after that. And then the other guy we were with actually got a flight on the flight the next day. So we all just got really random stories as to what was going on when. And there was a woman with us who wasn't part of the convention, but she was trying to go to Boston, and she couldn't get on a flight until Thursday. So everybody was kind of jam-packed. It was good of Paradox, though, because they felt really bad. So they got us a tour of CCP offices while we were there, which is the people who produce EVE Online, for those who are curious. They have gorgeous offices, great to talk to them. We talked to them about like new media, YouTube, just all kinds of stuff. It was really fun. But Iceland weather is really weird because at least while I was there, because 1 minute it's sunny, like beautiful sun. Within 5 minutes, whiteout conditions.
Yeah.
You can't see anything, not feet in front of you, which made it really scary, the cab ride there and back, because the cabs were flying and it would get whiteout conditions to the point where cars had pulled over on the side of the road and were waiting for the whiteout conditions to stop, and the cab was flying. He was bobbing and weaving.
The cabs can fly, but the planes can't.
Yeah, exactly. He was bobbing and weaving around the cars. He was like, oh, these people are slowing us down. I'm like, I'm gonna die. I'm going to die in Iceland where nobody will know where I am.
That's kind of a badass place to die, though, to be honest.
I guess.
What I love about this story is that you talk about how fucked up Iceland's weather is, and then that really illustrates how fucked up Boston's weather is right now.
Yeah.
They couldn't land in Boston, which is why they weren't flying out of Iceland.
But it's not Iceland's. It wasn't Iceland's choice. Boston closed down the whole airport. I'm sure Iceland would have done it.
Landing a plane in Boston, they basically probably just dropped the plane into the pile of snow, and it's just like, all right,
fine, yeah, totally okay. I've got a pile. Like I look out my window and I can't see anything than the mound of snow out there.
I didn't want to tell you this before you left, in case it heightened any latent sense of flying anxiety. But
the amount I had already was pretty high.
When I was flying back to Vancouver from Iceland in 2013. We got to the airport and we're like, there's no way they're going to fly. We thought we were going to be in the same position that you were in, because they only do like one flight to each major destination per day, and they're all within like half an hour of one another. So if
they're right though. Once you enter Iceland, you'll never want to leave. You won't be able to.
You won't be able to.
How much fucking money did they pay to drop that line just now, man? Jesus.
I don't know.
He was contractually obliged to say that.
There you go.
Good. All right, continue.
You almost fucked it, but there you go.
We were in, like, we'd gotten through security. We were waiting in the departures area. All the gates are like really close together, and there was just hail smashing into like the glass facade of the building, and we're like, there's no way that we're taking off here. So we talked to some staff, and we're like, so, how long are the delays usually? And they're like, like, this shit is not getting delayed. We're like, so we're all in our separate planes, and like, just again, like hail smashing into it, and like you can barely see anything. Yep. And you take off, and it's like, and then you get above the clouds, and it was just like, it's like we didn't even take off in a blizzard.
I was panicking trying to take off there because when we took off yesterday, it was whiteout conditions. You couldn't see anything. And it was just like turbulence the whole fucking time. And I'm like, I'm dead. I'm going to crash. That's what's going to happen. Iceland Air hasn't had a crash ever. This will be the first one.
I think Iceland Air, they have a huge increased risk due to weather conditions, but then that's compensated for by the fact that they're the only airline that flies out of there. So it's not like they're going to crash into anything except Iceland. Yeah, like there's no other planes. They're not going to accidentally hit another plane.
Nobody fucking lives there anyway, so who cares?
This guy's just firing nonstop shots at Iceland the whole
time.
Don't,
man, you've flown Iceland Air. Did they have the little things on the TV? Like, the greatest thing about Iceland isn't that insert random fact. It's that random fact. One of the things that they had was like,
they couldn't even think of anything, so they just had like, they still include the parentheticals in the freaking airplane
one of the things
video.
was like basically talk about how small their country is. It wasn't like the lush whale and shark population. It's that Iceland has no military, navy, or air force. I'm like, all right, thanks.
Can somebody make a Java applet?
Defenseless. I want to see Iceland and then own it.
Two random facts, just grab them, put them together, and
Please,
just have
that'd be awesome. The most amazing thing about Iceland isn't it's like 136 geysers or whatever. It's that only 126 people own swimming pools. I was like, why do I care about that? Thank you. I really can't wait to visit Iceland now in one of the 126 swimming pools that people own.
That's kind of how they try to advertise Rhode Island too, isn't it?
Yeah, well, no, they advertise Rhode Island as just like, please come visit us. We're the poorest state in the country. Because we keep fucking up.
Come see Rhode Island. You can barely see it on a map.
But it was nice. It was a pretty country, from what I saw.
I would go back to Iceland in a heartbeat. It sucks that you were in Keflavik instead of like actually in Reykjavik.
Yeah, Keflavik was like, this buildings looked like they were right out of the 70s. Yeah. My room smelled like grandma's house.
Well, I mean, like Reykjavik has like 130,000 people as the biggest city. So
it's a capital.
Yeah, this Keflavik is like
so small,
like two people.
And do they plow their roads? Because it didn't look like it while I was there.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't have an intimate knowledge of the snow removal process in Iceland.
You should.
You've been there twice, right? Isn't that enough?
That's more than me, man.
You've been there more than I have, technically.
First time you learn about the swimming pool. Second time you learn the snowplow procedures.
Somebody told me, some Swedish guy told me that there was a website in Iceland to trace back your family lineage to make sure that you're not dating like a second or third cousin or something in Iceland.
Yeah, it makes sense.
That's a necessary service, right?
Well, one of the random facts was that every native Icelander can trace back their heritage to the original settlers.
Wow.
Of Catan.
We just call them grandpa, right?
Yeah, right, yeah.
Kind of sounds to me like the taxi cabs might be the best snowplow service, though. They just attach a few little shovels to the front of those. And
They don't even touch the ground. They're flying everywhere.
At one point,
Right,
the
yeah.
taxi driver turned a corner and we swerved, and he looked at us and went, "Wee." I was like, "Oh, no, we're dead." I was like, "No, that's not what you say
beautiful.
when you're like skidding on the roads."
Then you find out it's the guy from Crazy Taxi. And he's like, we can make some crazy money.
I will say the cab ride into the city from Keflavik is expensive. Holy crap.
Everything in Iceland is expensive, I think.
It was over $100 cab ride.
Oh, my God. Wow.
Yeah, and it was like 40 minutes.
Did Iceland Air pay for it?
I bet you I could have them pay for it, but I did not.
those
They gave
scumbags.
us a free cab ride to and from the airport when we needed it. But Reykjavik was kind of just we're going to see CCP offices. So everybody knows CCP offices too in Iceland. They're like national
sure they do,
heroes
yeah.
in Iceland.
I'm
Because
pretty
they
sure
make
that
up
they
for,
might be like one of the largest employers.
Yeah, and they
in
make
the
up for
entire
like
country.
50% of the economy or something like that. It's crazy.
Really? Oh, my God.
Yeah, that's what I've been told.
50%?
And that's where Eve gets their currency from. Isk. Isk is Iceland. Icelandic kroners, I guess.
Yeah. Is that that's the actual currency that you were, like paying for cab rides with, right?
Yeah,
Right?
13. It was like 13 or 14,000 Isk for the cab.
Wow.
Wow.
Nuts. Well, if we want to keep talking about beautiful things, I think Peter Molyneux might be on the.
Are we gonna dive into that right away?
Yeah, if you want to. I mean,
I was wondering which segue that would be. Beautiful things.
I was curious what he was going for there.
he's a beautiful man. He really is. He's responsible
Makes beautiful
for,
promises anyway.
Yeah, responsible for
Right,
such
right.
classics as the Fable trilogy, the Black and White games. He was a part of Theme Park, which honestly was one of my favorite games when I was a kid. So I've got like those childhood ties to him. Mathis just left.
Yeah, you can't talk
I
about
just
Peter
wanted to
Molyneux.
light on it. I can't.
He freaks
Peter
out,
Molyneux
man.
upsets me.
So here's the impetus for all the Peter Molyneux discussion.
Yes.
Is that I think in 2012, he founded a company called 22 Cans, kickstarted a game called Goddess. At roughly the same time, a game called Curiosity from the same company was out, and basically all you did was you mined a big tiles on a big cube to try to get to the center of the cube, and if you got to the center of the cube, you got a prize.
That would change your life.
Yes, it would change your life, and then an 18-year-old, I think this was last year or in like late 2013, won the prize, and he was like, well, in Goddess, you're going to be able to have like a period where you affect things for everybody else. You're going to be like the god of Goddess, and you're going to share in the revenue for the game. And they didn't say whether that would be like 1% or 10% or if it would last forever or just for a period. But anyway, this, as far as I could tell, this kind of like Peter Molyneux powder keg that went off this week happened when Eurogamer published an interview that they did with the 18-year-old guy who is now 21 or something like that, who won the Goddess prize. And he's like, yeah, they didn't like do any of that. And the game is not even in a state where there's any multiplayer, so I can't affect it. And I haven't seen a dime. They did fly me out to the offices and kind of just like treated me like I was in daycare or something. Like, you just don't cause any trouble over there. And then after that, or maybe it was like, it might have been like a couple days before that, but the 22 Cans team released a video where they were basically like, well, we're going to pivot some of our team off of Goddess and put them onto this new game that we're making, which I think it was a prototype called The Trail or something like that. Yeah. So people got up in arms. They're like, well, Goddess hasn't done what you'd said it would do. There's all this emotion wrapped up because there's Kickstarter promises and people invested like hundreds of thousands of, well, collectively people invested hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then there was an interview with Rock Paper Shotgun where John Walker, the editor-in-chief, basically opened the interview by saying, like, are you a pathological liar? And the interview, as you might expect, was a little bit tense from that point onwards. And now he has sworn off talking to media, supposedly. Today, here we are.
Yeah,
That's why we're talking about Peter Molyneux.
Peter Molyneux.
Every time you hear something from Peter, you got to peel back those lies.
Oh, nice.
There you go.
Saved it.
Like a clementine.
There you go.
Non-truth.
Or an onion, because
Peter
you
Molyneux
cry
is
every
the
time.
Clementine of the games industry.
Peter Molyneux is Shrek.
Oh, God, no.
Well, okay, now we've opened up a whole new can of worms right now.
All right, so let's
22 cans, in fact.
Oh, man! Woo!
Right for puns.
Dude, that last 15 seconds was puntastic. I can't even handle that. So I'm kind of I'm waiting to make a determination of how I feel about the guy based on the outcome of this conversation, which is why I'm really excited to talk about it.
Yeah,
because
your opinion can be swayed either way.
I'm very easily malleable. You can make me believe whatever you want, really.
So,
but
I'll open up, I guess. I'm of two minds about the situation. I really think Peter Molyneux needed to be talked to about his kind of public.
You think somebody needed to sit down with him, like have
a little intervention to be like, look, dude, like somebody, like because I feel like he's one of those people in the industry where if you're working with him, he's like too big to touch. If you give him a suggestion, he's not going to listen to you. So it's almost impossible. So I feel like somebody need to be like, look, dude, you constantly overpromise about all your games and look what it's done to your reputation up into this point. Except nobody's really done that all that often. I don't know if opening up with "Are you a pathological liar?" was the right first step. I think that interview could have gone so much better if that one question was left out.
I think it became there was a lot of in the storm of Peter Molyneux's life cycle. There have been a lot of people mentioning the fact that a lot of media interaction he's had has kind of been coddled a little bit. He's kind of been babied into the role he's in now. And I think maybe Mr. Walker was trying to... I mean, like, it sounded like from the get-go, based on the result of this interview, which it's actually pretty lengthy, too. I mean, it starts out harsh, and then it keeps fucking going. Like, you're surprised that he keeps on talking to him like this, honestly. But it seemed like from the onset, he wanted to be the guy that, attacked him, almost.
Right, and it came off very, very aggressive.
Yeah, it was pretty abrasive. Like, again, as I mentioned, like, it's not just that first instance. I mean, he keeps pushing and pushing and pushing, like, trying to get to, a point where he can, kind of break down the barrier of yes men into something honest and tangible, I guess.
You gonna say something, Ryan? Good.
It's a really complicated issue because there's a lot of stuff that's going on within this issue. The issue that we're kind of talking about now is, the core of it is like, what is the nature, or what should be the nature of the way that like games press interacts with developers? There's been a lot. I feel like Peter Molyneux has benefited, but also from this. But the way that he's been treated by press is basically self-serving for both of them. Like the same, like games press context or games press people that are like tearing him down now. Also, every time that he comes out with a new promise, are writing articles about it. And they're giving it press, even if the press is kind of like tongue-in-cheek. Well, like, there goes Peter Molyneux with another ambitious promise. Like, that kind of stuff, it builds both of them up. And then I feel like it's different because I don't want to label it as, like, the press. Because I don't know if John Walker has done previews of Peter Molyneux's past games and talked them up or anything like that.
We're talking in kind of generalizations.
In like an abstract. That, like, it's like double dipping, right? Like, you can have these articles that are talking about the promises, but then also, like, I don't know, profiting from kind of tearing them down when the promises don't come out. I think it should be more consistent if you can get to that ideal where either you treat it as if it's real journalism, which is what this interview is, which is maybe why it's a little bit more uncomfortable because it's so impolite and it's getting like pretty personal about in an industry where most people don't get personal about it, at least in a professional context, or I don't know, at least recognize that it's not just Peter Molyneux that makes the promises. It's the people that believe in the promises and the press that also propagate the promises that he makes.
Yeah, they go hand in hand.
Spread it.
Agreed. I mean, I remember going back and thinking about Goddess when it first was announced and the first demo that was shown at, was it an E3 maybe? And the thing that comes to mind is Adam Sessler sitting down with Peter Molyneux and discussing Goddess and showing it off and how excited Adam Sessler was. And then he walked away and he talked about it and he was talking about how this is, this looks like it's going to be exactly what Peter Molyneux says without really seeing much of the gameplay. He was hyping it up and talking about it, and Goddess is going to be the revolution of the God game all over again. It's going to be everything that it should be now and more. And here we are now with a cash grab mobile version of Goddess, which you can get for, I don't know, some amount of money, and an incomplete PC version, which barely has any of the features that were promised in it. and he's already peeling away some of the team to do the trail or whatever it is. And I do think he needed to be aggressive and get these questions out in front of the people. I think the thing that people are so fixated on is the very first question: are you a pathological liar? If that question was left out, would people be in an uproar?
I don't know, it gets pretty personal in its tone.
It does.
Like it does kind of seem like John is talking down to him at some time. So it'd be like, like, surely you understand, yada yada. But I guess not to take his side in this, but I kind of feel like it's the role, like it's Peter Molyneux's role to sell his games, not to lie necessarily, but I don't believe that he's overtly lying. I think he just doesn't really have realistic expectations of what his project is actually going to be like. But who is still believing that? Like, people, I feel like there's a lot of people that are like, well, fuck Peter Molyneux. Yeah, someone needed to like really, tell him, give him a good talking to. It's like, well, why don't you just like not buy his shit or
there's a lot of people saying,
yeah,
fuck Peter Molyneux, as they're pulling $20 out of their wallet and handing it to him personally too.
That's kind of the way I feel about it.
People.
Well, I think
it's
the impetus
like, you got me
this,
last time.
The impetus to all this happening is not necessarily because he breaks promises, but Goddess is, I think a lot of people feel like, robbed them. I think that's the problem. Like, there's a difference between delivering a game that is finished and may not, like Fable. Fable 1 was a great game, but one of the promises fucking Peter Molyneux made was, if you chop down a tree when you're a child, who knows the effects that are gonna who knows the effects?
The one.
Yeah, who knows what the effects are gonna be when you're an adult? Like, okay, fucking grandiose promises on the Xbox, whatever. You still delivered a good game. It was a finished game. It was a complete game. With Goddess, it was a kickstarted game where the developers themselves have said, like, I don't know if we're going to be able to deliver all these things he said, which is money you've already given us and funded this project. Not only that, the team has been, some of it has been peeled away to work on another project when this is barely 50% completed. And the multiplayer, if it ever happens, is broken as hell right now. I think there's a difference there.
I think, well, Peter Molyneux is an excellent salesman. I mean, we just have to kind of give that to him right out of the gate. I think it was like you were saying with Fable, that was back in the day. That's the first instance I think I remember of truly, being Peter Molyneux-ified on on an experience. And this was when I was, I don't know, when did Fable come out? That was like 2003 or something. Yeah, so that was when I was Xbox. Maybe 12. No, I was older than that, like 13, 14 years old when that was being hyped up. And this might have just been my childlike wonder, plug for J. Smith OTI shirt. Right? No longer available for sale, unfortunately. But I remember, wow. Oh yeah, he was selling it quite a bit. Yeah, Peter Molyneux is the J. Smith OTI of game sales. So that's a good time. I remember thinking back in the day that Fable would have like its own, armor mech style controller device that allowed you to do things as intricate as, like you could pick your character's nose by manipulating a mouse wheel, or you could like, fucking, like walking around would have as much of an impact as killing another person.
It would have a button to like daydream about the future on it. And that would be so good.
Yeah.
Baer, I gotta ask you something. Do you think that he's actually a good salesman, or do you think that we just want to hear what we want to hear because we have a lot of really great dreams in our own heads?
I think he utilizes that to be an effective salesman. I think that's kind of his MO, is I know what I want, and I'm pretty sure I have a pretty solid idea of the consumer base, and that their ideas and their, vivid dreams of a game world that just completely engrosses them are something I can sell them on. And I mentioned this before too, is the fact that I don't think he's actually malicious in his intent. I think he really is just kind of someone that can almost sell himself on the very optimistic ambition that he has for the majority of the stuff he puts out.
As a seasoned developer, though, don't you think that after a certain amount of projects have gone by, you can kind of see where your trajectory is going to land every time and realize that you're overpromising? And do we have an obligation to even make that judgment, or is that just on him? He's been doing this for so long, he should know what's possible, or at least be realistic.
But is the onus on him, or is it on consumers? Because like I don't want to say, well, Peter Molyneux did nothing wrong, because you take that out of context. I'm not comfortable with that.
Hold up the sign.
Right? Yeah. But I mean, I'm not going to say he's a liar, but he's a consistent overpromiser, and most people would say he hasn't delivered at least since the Fable series, and probably not Fable 3. So best case scenario, that's like 10 years ago, and a lot of people take it further back to either Black and White or even Dungeon Keeper, which is almost 2 decades ago.
Black and White, I think, was... what's interesting about it is Black and White kind of delivered a little bit. I don't even remember a lot of what Peter Molyneux personally said about Black and White, obviously, because that was, over a decade ago. But he, kind of talked it up a little bit. He talked it up even more so after it was out, which is kind of the anti-Peter Molyneux thing, where he releases the game, like, normally he would release the game and say, like, oh, that was shitty. We'll just wait until we come out with this next big thing that's going to blow your freaking mind. When Black and White came out, he kind of stood behind Black and White because Black and White was legitimately very good and pretty damn boundary breaking. It kind of created a lot of different experiences that people weren't able to have access to at that time. So I think he kind of established a footing off that and thought to himself, well, I bet I could throw a football over them mountains now if I was given the opportunity. Like, you throw me a dev team, we can create a goddamn wondrous paradise with whatever you can throw my way.
Kind of his job, though, not only to make games, but to make money. And I'm not trying to say that he should be able to lie maliciously, which I don't think he does. But if you look at Goddess, like, Goddess made is maybe a strange word to use for Kickstarter, but it made over $500,000 on Kickstarter in pounds, which I don't know the exchange rate, but that's got to be like $700,000 US, basically just on the back of his salesmanship and also, I guess, his clout from years ago. Like, at what point do we, or maybe there is no point for this, it's a little bit of a fallacy, but is it fair for us to be like, Peter Molyneux ripped us off by, like, overpromising, or should it be like if I see someone on the street and they're like, hey, if you give me $100,000, I'll turn it into $1 million next year, I don't go, oh, he scammed me. If it goes wrong, I go, why did I trust that guy who was, like, pitching me on the street like that? Like, he has a history of lying, or a history of not being able to deliver on his promises. I feel like everybody knows who Peter Molyneux is at this point.
And the thing is, it's not like he's been getting away scot-free, though. I mean, these people still fucking give him money and everything. But his reputation has been getting more and more tarnished as time goes on, to the point where I think now it's fucked. Like,
I think you're probably right about that.
People kind of root for the underdog, don't they? They see a situation that they're like, hey, this guy's had a really bad reputation. Maybe this will be the time where he turns it all around, and I want to be there for that.
Well, that's a lot of what it is, too, with the press, is he's always been given the opportunity to, kind of play on the world's tiniest violin, like tugging America's heartstrings of, well, come on, guys. I mean, I wanted to make this happen. I wanted to make this happen. Although we could make a sitcom based around him. We call it something like, oh, come on, Petey. And
I love this.
Every week he's just got this brand new scheme, and he's just all of his little friends, like
Ed and Eddie.
Yeah. He's got like Little Mike and Big Paul, just like adjective name. That would be another character. You just call him adjective name.
Adjective name.
Like he'd just be like he'd like look like Missing No from Pokemon.
And the tagline would be, "This will be a groundbreaking sitcom."
With an asterisk at the end, but no thing denoting what the asterisk actually represents.
That gets put in after the series is wrapped up.
That's my favorite thing to see.
I think as an industry and as consumers, and I think to some extent we're guilty of this as well. I'm not trying to say that I'm above this, but we're guilty of being believers.
Yeah,
like you see those posts come up on Reddit or on Twitter or something like that. Someone comes up with a name for an idea for a project that's really ambitious, and they're like, this is going to change gaming, and people go, whoa, why didn't anyone think of this idea before? Because it's hard to make. Anyone can come up with an idea and be like, well, wouldn't it be amazing if we had a God game, but like it's actually like a really good God game? We're like, oh, why didn't anyone else think of that?
I remember one of the promises Peter Molyneux said for Goddess was, because you can like manipulate the lands. Mm-hmm. And because he was so focused on multiplayer, he's like, if you move the cliff even a little bit, it will affect the way the winds travel. Yeah. And even a civilization miles away,
this is an amazing Molyneux impression.
You could possibly destroy their entire farmland and destroy their civilization.
Breathier. Go breathier.
Without even realizing it. And I'm like, oh, God, you're so... You don't realize that what you're saying is impossible, sir.
We gotta stop believing that stuff.
Right.
We believe too much.
Please stop believing Peter Molyneux.
Let's call me Peter Matthew.
Whenever you have, and I don't know, because I think the cynicism around Kickstarter, I'm not saying Kickstarter is dying, because there's been great projects like Darkest Dungeon, for example, that have made use. Exactly.
Eternity.
But I don't know if a project like Goddess can succeed anymore on Kickstarter. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe with Peter Molyneux's quote-unquote reputation, he can still do it. But I feel like now when people get like they see a Kickstarter pitch and they're like, that idea is really good, instead of being like, I'll pay $100 for an Android-based console with free games, right? They're gonna be like,
ooh, yeah.
What's going on? They're like, oh, that's a great idea. I'll play it when it's out. And I think I hope that the culture shifts a little bit towards that, because to me, it's a little rich to be like, Peter Molyneux lied. And you're like, well, yeah, if you want to be as offensive as possible, he's a liar. What he has said has not become true in like 15 years. Why are you still believing him? Right. If you loan a friend money and he says, no, this time I'll pay you back, he might be a shitty friend, but also you're an idiot.
But then, so there's also another level to this too, where eventually you cross a line that's like, do we have a right to just tear down this person as an actual person beyond his professional ties to the industry, right?
Yeah.
So has the industry gone too far now in just maligning him?
I think it's pretty safe to say, like, don't go shit on Peter Molyneux on anyone's account ever, because that's just poor behavior. Right. But I mean, I'm trying to relate it to something like we all love the paradigms between our industry and other ones, right? So I'm trying to think of something like, say, if a director, let's just pull one out of our hats and say
Michael Bay.
Michael Bay, sure, let's go with that. So like Michael Bay tells us Transformers 18 is going to be the most revolutionary experience of all time. You're going to go to theaters and there will be little miniature nanobots that grab at your ankles as they're going through the last ground encounter.
Oh, they have that in the Vancouver Aquarium, actually. It's pretty weird.
Do that? That's amazing. Wow.
That's weird.
It's an odd little comparison we made there then. But it's, I mean, we go to the movie and we see it and we're like, oh, that was pretty cool, I guess.
That was
yeah.
And that was a Michael Bay movie. There's a lot of explosions.
I mean, we just come to expect that of Michael Bay, though, right? I mean, like, we have an established precedent for Michael Bay where, I mean, this is almost kind of true, actually, now that I'm thinking about it.
That's why I chose him.
Yeah, Michael Bay kind of is
the Peter Molyneux of movies.
Exactly. And you say Peter Molyneux. Molyneux. All about Peter. All About Peter. Oh, that's a much better name for the sitcom.
About Peter.
There we go. Okay, we got a winner now. I'm just going to write it out for you. I'll have the script ready at the end of the podcast. Somebody can take that to the bank. But yeah, I mean, it's never something that I've ever like wanted to write a letter to Michael Bay about and say, you done tricked me, boy. You got me again. That damn Michael Bay. It's never like gotten to that point, and I wonder why. I mean, you can draw such a comparison or like an easy relativity chart between the grandiose ideas that are hyped up by not just him but by a lot of other people, and then the amount of love that generates for that person, and then as the release date comes closer and closer and closer, you just like the line gets further down to the point where the love-hate skew of the chart has just gone into
the Sonic cycle.
Catastrophic
You know the Sonic cycle, right?
Yeah.
Every Sonic game that comes out, it just goes in a circle.
Mm-hmm.
People still get excited for Sonic games?
Yeah, man.
Oh, yeah.
I've been asking.
It doesn't matter how many there will be.
Why?
Since like 2006.
Because
and then Sonic came out and is the worst. And people are, I guarantee, the next game that gets announced, people will be like, well, it looks pretty good.
This could be the one.
Generations, half of Generations was pretty decent, so I've got some hope here.
That's what those people are the same people that wear this.
Oh my God, he's got something ready.
What are you doing?
What's going on?
I linked you something in the chat.
Oh, okay.
Oh, come on, man.
That's not fair to the viewers.
How the hell?
I'm not recording.
Don't just drop that fucking bomb on us. What do you want us to do with that?
It's a mask. It's a Sonic mask.
It's a roleplay mask for Sonic. Same people buy that.
I'm not comfortable with this being called a roleplay mask. There's like an 11-year-old boy wearing it.
All right.
Something's weird about that.
How about this one then? This is even better.
No, stop it. This doesn't work.
Last one. There you go.
No.
Look at the face on that kid, and then when I just clicked to send you.
Okay, that is really good.
Right? Look at that face.
I guess I have more work to do now, and whatever way I'm gonna make that incorporated.
Honestly,
here,
I think they might have photoshopped that kid's face and hands into the picture.
And the hands. Just photoshopped a child's hands onto this.
I think they might have. This kid doesn't look like he's in that suit.
I'm not looking at it.
All right.
I can't click that in the chat because then it throws off all of my screen readers.
Oh yeah.
Zoom in if you just.
It's a child in a Sonic the Hedgehog costume.
All right.
It's amazing.
Good.
I can't wait to see what kind of ads you get now, Mathis.
Oh man, I don't even want to know. Well, I was in Iceland. After a while, I was getting Icelandic promoted tweets.
Oh yeah,
pretty great.
I was noticing some of your tweets had a very odd structure to them, and I didn't know if like all of a sudden you forgot how to speak English or the Twitter app detected where you were and then decided to like adjust your autocorrect accordingly.
It.
Yeah. That's weird that does that. I didn't.
Oh, this is sweet. Oh, these are great.
Stop.
There's another one for you.
No.
Oh my god.
Good.
I click.
We gotta change topics now. This is getting out of hand.
All right, but yeah, I think.
Fuck. That one I don't even understand what I'm looking at with those eyes. But sure, okay.
All right, I'm done.
If you want to know, if you're watching this right now, go to Amazon.com and type Sonic Child Costume Blue Small Palamon Adult. So I don't even know what those words mean when they're
no one's
combined.
gonna type that.
It's got 4.5 stars and 57 customer reviews.
But like he's in the costume, but then they have also drawn like with makeup eyes on his face, and it just doesn't look right. Like something has got. It looks like some kind of terrible.
This is just what her son wanted. My son is a big 8-year-old boy. He has always loved costumes. He has gone through many characters through the years. Sonic is his latest. He's always had an eye for detail, and this costume made him light up with the specific details for Sonic. What details do you need on Sonic other than blue
This is the
spikes?
creepiest shit ever. A big 8-year-old boy with an eye for detail. I don't ever want to hear that.
A mother who is grooming her son to be a serial killer.
Oh man.
You're a big 8-year-old boy, aren't you?
He goes through a lot of characters.
Boy.
This is his latest.
Oh my god. Oh my god, an adult one.
Mathis,
We gotta stop you, man.
self-indulgent man has gone too far.
Yeah.
Traveling down a dangerous road.
Do you have a closing thought on Peter Molyneux, anyone?
I do. And my closing thought is that closing thought number one, stop giving Peter Molyneux your money.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm less mad about this. Because I'm not like, Peter Molyneux lied. I'm like, lots of people lie. I didn't give him any money, so I'm not personally invested.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I missed out by Goddess not being what it was promised, because Goddess never existed.
I was gonna say Goddess was never going to be what it was gonna be.
Goddess was a dream in the clouds of a nebula far, far away.
That's
that game
Jaden
never
Smith
existed,
shit, man.
They can't deliver on it.
I think Peter Molyneux would do well to let a PR guy handle shit like this from now on. Like anytime a game comes out, huh?
He gets so much press.
Yeah, I know. But do you not think that maybe at this point, do you not think maybe at this point his name might hurt sales?
It's possible, but I think if Goddess was not made by Peter Molyneux, nobody would even know that it exists.
This will be the Sonic game.
I don't believe in the thing people say where someone will be like, hey, a celebrity accidentally said something really racist, and people go, any press is good press. Like, I don't believe that, right? But Peter Molyneux makes me believe that I'm wrong. Because the more bad press he gets, the more press he gets, and apparently there's still like a small percentage of people out there that trust him. More power to them. They got to know at this point what they're getting themselves into. It works for him, and it blows my mind.
It's because he's polite and articulate, and he dreams big, and people love when people do that. There's like no downside to liking him other than losing whatever that investment was again.
Yeah.
And money is transient.
GameSpot and Kotaku are not getting 10,000 page clicks from Peter Molyneux's PR guy says the trail is the next great American treasure, right? Like he's got to draw. He's got to keep working off of that, I guess.
So what I've gathered here is
by the way,
incredibly difficult gray area to really say anything on.
Peter is not going anywhere. Like
no,
keep that in mind.
He can say he's leaving, but he's not.
He's not going anywhere.
The media has to think about how they want to deal with Peter Molyneux in the future.
They're going to deal with him whatever gets them the most clicks.
I probably agree with that.
I think if
you're gonna take the stance that you're gonna be standoffish to him, there's something about that is admirable, and it's cool that there's a site that actually is not just saying like, tell me more about your game. That sounds cool. Like it'll be out in 6 weeks, right? And then we'll tear it down when it's actually out. It's cool that like somebody is saying like, hey, like your shit is not very good, and I would prefer if maybe they weren't like, hey, do you have a mental problem? Are you mentally ill? Like,
hey, so Pete, what's the fuck's wrong with you?
Exactly. But I don't know. The reason that interview rubbed me the wrong way is based on a fallacy, which is me thinking that the media is all the same people, like all the same person. So I was like, how can you treat him positively and like pimp his shit and then also ask him if he's, a pathological liar?
Because you'll click.
Mm-hmm.
Just stop giving him money. That's it. That's the whole. You don't need to malign his character. You just need to just kind of step away and see where that goes.
But if Peter Molyneux comes out with this great idea of a game, another year or two down the line, we'll see some fucking overblown title on Rock Paper Shotgun about this game, whether it be good or bad, because it'll get them money. That's just how that's just how press works, right? Like you have to dramatize news for people to click, because if you don't click, you don't make money.
So he found a loophole then, basically. There's no way for him to get out of being popular.
Well, the thing about this interview, though, I mean, they never even... It's not like they titled this interview "RPS takes a giant dump on Peter Molyneux," but they used a quote in the byline of "I haven't got a reputation in this industry anymore." I mean, like that's not really like a... Whoa, you'll never believe the 5 things Peter Molyneux said about Chinese people or something like that.
Well, when they put it up on Twitter, which is how I found it, the title on Twitter was, "We called Peter Molyneux a pathological liar."
Okay, so that's a little bit of clickbait there, but
so I was like, okay, well now I want to click, and I clicked on it because I wanted to read it, and
you got.
I don't believe that games journalists have an obligation to maintain good relationships and like certain standards of politeness with developers, because they do have allegiance to their readership, more so because the readership pays their bills basically, and also that's who they serve with their reviews and stuff like that. At the same time, when I was reading the interview, and I don't know if this is what he actually was thinking, but I was like, this is an interview that is basically designed to trade Peter Molyneux for hits.
Yeah, for money.
Like you're gonna put him in the grinder here, and maybe he deserves it, maybe he doesn't, and money is gonna come out the other side. It's kind of the way I felt about it. That they went in being like, we're gonna sacrifice this guy.
They could either keep milking the cow, or they could put the cow in the grinder and then get like 40 hamburgers out of it. I mean, like they're good for a month from that.
That's a great analogy for media, man. You milk the cow, and then when it's done producing milk, you make hamburgers out of it.
In the head.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now that we've done that, I say we start talking about another thing that's going to make a lot of people hate us, potentially, in the form of the first of the 2 games that we all played. I was going to use a different word, but played is a factual word.
So I know which game you're talking about then.
Well, I don't know if you do.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
So Apotheon.
Apotheon
was the... I gotta pull up the page here, because I gotta remember the name of the dev here.
Alien Trap games.
Yes. It's an action adventure. It's out on Steam. Oh God, there it is. I've got to have the Steam trailers playing, but
Metroidvania-esque, free on PlayStation Plus. I believe $15 on PC.
So I'll start with this one, because I think I'm gonna have the divisive opinion between us all, which is interesting in the way that I'm gonna present it, because I kind of liked it. Because I came back to it, so I played it the first time, and I think we all kind of shared the same opinion the first time, in that we liked the aesthetic generally. I actually didn't really care for the color palette, but that's a very nitpicky thing. But the combat is kind of what tears us away from it. It's got a very Terraria-esque combat style to it, where it's got a decent weapon variety. It's got a... Don't you shake your finger at me.
I had the... Go ahead. No, continue.
And it's kind of difficult to get into. It's very, very tough to play with a controller. So that's what I'm kind of primarily concerned about, people that are downloading it on PS4 for the free PlayStation Plus. I couldn't do it on the controller. It was, like damn near impossible. So I had to switch over to mouse and keyboard.
How does combat work on the controller?
You throw with right bumper.
Okay.
But the real problem is that, with the mouse, you have a little bit more granular control over kind of like where you're putting your crosshair, which is important because there's a gravity and like an arc to your projectile weapons. And it kind of feels like at least with the 360 controller, you kind of just had like 8 positions to put it in, which is not technically true, but I found myself like really, really struggling to land attacks. Oftentimes just like pointing at their feet and getting like right next to them and being like, stop hitting yourself. But
what about melee combat?
The melee, I mean, it's all
X, I think.
Fairly
right trigger.
Really?
Something
right trigger.
like that,
yeah, right trigger.
So that confuses me a little bit, but continue. Sorry.
So it's set in an ancient Greek mythos. So there's the entire Greek god thing. We like to call it God of War meets Terraria, in certain circumstances, because it's pretty much. I mean, is it not basically the plot of God of War, more or less? You are introduced
really
to. I mean, it has very
actually, God of War is Roman gods, and Apotheon is set in ancient Greece.
I remember Zeus.
Zeus is one of them.
I never played God of War.
Oh, I was gonna say that you're wrong. No, yeah, you're wrong. By the way,
okay, that's fine. I respect that.
But it's fun for me now. So I got back into it. I jumped back into it for a second session, and I started to get a little bit more comfortable with the mouse and keyboard controls, with combat and all that stuff. And it takes a lot of getting used to. That's what I think would be my caveat to it, is I played it a lot, and then I just couldn't get into it. But then coming back to it, I started to feel a little bit more for the different weapons and for the control scheme of it all. I know Mathis will hopefully have, discerning points for that, but I got to enjoying it, and now I want to throw it to you to tell me why I'm wrong.
Well, all right. So I made a video. I did a video on the game, and I kind of tore the game apart. The big thing I decided
you Molyneux'd it.
I Molyneux.
You did.
Oh, so bad. But the combat, like I said, like you said, is pretty simple. It comes, or at least let me put it this way: it comes off as really, really simple. The tutorial for combat is basically just click this button and you'll swing. There's really no indication that it's any deeper than that. When I did the video, I got tweeted at by the developer, who basically was telling me that the combat is like Mount and Blade Warband, which, if you ever played Mount and Blade series, it's a lot more directional-based combat. So however you're swinging your mouse in Mount and Blade, your character will swing your weapon in that particular way. My gripe with that, which, it does make for a little bit more deep combat, at least in Mount and Blade, is that there's no indication at all that that's how the combat works in Apotheon whatsoever. Like I said, the only tutorial they have is something written on the back wall that says, click this button to swing, click this button to throw. And even if that is how it works, if you're telling me that on controller you hit the X button to just melee swing,
no, it's right trigger.
Right trigger, either way, whatever you press to swing, how is there any control or fine control over how you're going to swing your sword? If there's such a deep combat there, why is it so obscured and hidden from the player? Because for most people in the comment section that watched my video said, they're like, yeah, everything's good about this game except for the combat. The combat's shit. And it is. It's really crap. I hate the combat. I hate the physics of the game, because I find myself chasing enemies around nonsensically, because if they turn a random direction, like go another way, I now have to turn around, go the other way. My character has to catch up on his speed, and God forbid there's something I need to jump up on, which will slow me down, which means getting to him is going to be even harder. It's just a pain in the ass, and it's not a fun thing to do. I think the story, the aesthetic is interesting, at least interesting enough for me would want to play it through if the combat didn't suck, but I think the combat kills the game, and I don't think it's a fun game because of it.
I had similar gripes, obviously, as I mentioned before, but I just got to a point where I started to get a feel for how to effectively play the game as far as the combat is concerned. And what's funny is I don't even necessarily disagree with you at any point of what you were saying throughout all of that, and I'm pretty sure, in fact, I totally agree with you. But I still don't want to say that the combat sucks. What's interesting is it's kind of fun when you get used to it, but it looks just sort of shitty.
It looks janky.
Yeah,
it feels
it really
janky.
does. I mean, I don't want to sugarcoat it at all either. It looks shitty because, like, when people are... when I think ancient Greek warfare, I don't think of people, like, bouncing around and, going like fucking Thriller zombies everywhere. Like, that's not my idea of it.
But walking through one another with
right,
like
right.
their swords pointed in the other direction.
And your head just kind of looking up like this as you're swinging in front of you, or you're like looking down. It is bad.
Dodge rolls 15 feet across the sky. Like, that's...
Well, when I was doing the video on it, I was kind of spitballing easy ideas that would have made this more entertaining. And one of the things I was saying, I don't know if I'm not a game designer, so I could be very wrong. This might not make it more fun. But one of my big complaints is that all the weapons felt the same. and they with varying lengths, obviously, or of range. So a dagger much shorter, but they also
there's like a shield basher that is like a little weightier, but you still do just like
it's the same kind of
swing it at the maximum arc.
Same. What I would love to see maybe is have each weapon have 1 or 2 attacks depending on what button you're pressing, and have a ton of different weapons. So like a short sword can do like an overhead swing and a stab forward, while an axe might do like an over the back really slow swing but does a ton of damage, and like a really slow upward swing that does the same.
To be fair, that does kind of happen, but it's almost completely like you don't even notice it for the most part. You can have
a weapon I was using. I was just like, when I press this button, it will like swing or stab.
Exactly. That's how it felt. Also, the weapon deterioration system is stupid as fuck.
It's like no need.
There's no need. There's no need to have a weapon deterioration system. I thought it detracted from the game a ton, and there was a lot of just boring collecting going on. I felt the urge to break everything just so I could pick up things to craft. I feel like they could have just done away with that by just because the crafting system was negligible. It was throwaway.
Yeah.
There was not a lot of depth. There was no depth there. The crafting system, at least as far as I got, really didn't matter. Instead of doing that, they could have just left the things you crafted on the ground. You could have just picked them up that way, as opposed to have to go through this needless menu and just craft by clicking the button and make the thing.
Yeah. I tend to agree that I don't think the combat in Apotheon is that good, but I do think it's a solid game overall. Like, it's a game that I did for a time. I was like, I could see myself like finishing this and having a reasonably good time, because the art style is cool and unique, and I've never really seen anything like it before. And the framing for the story is pretty good. It's basically like, Zeus is being a big old dick, kill all the gods. And the boss fights that I encountered, like I fought the Cyclops, and then I fought Apollo once as well. And I was like, the boss fight encounters are pretty good. I also don't doubt that because he was talking about there being like an online multiplayer, like perhaps adversarial mode.
There is some multiplayer that I didn't really touch.
I don't doubt that when that comes out, you will see skilled people online that have fights that make the game look cool.
Yeah.
But in like a player versus enemy style of combat, there's just it's not satisfying enough. And the complaints that you brought up are valid, even though like the developer's response was like, well, that would be a different game. Like, I don't like combo-based brawlers, or I don't like, this kind of game. That he's entitled to make whatever game he wants as well. But I think the sentiment that I had was pretty much the same, that like if the combat was more satisfying, it would be a better game. It wouldn't be the same game. I actually feel the same way about Sunless Sea. And there's a lot of stuff in Sunless Sea where I was like, if they took like this element out of a different game and put it in here, I would like this a lot more.
Yeah.
It would be a different game. But at the same time, I think I would have enjoyed Apotheon more if the combat moment to moment was more satisfying, because it does look like real janky, man.
Yeah.
Like,
it feels janky too.
The way that I killed Apollo was basically like, I was like, I don't want to mess with these controls. So I just took out stones. And I could like see like his torch in the distance, and I just like basically like with my 360 controller like glued the analog stick with my finger like here, and then just hit right bumper and hit him with like 35 stones, and then he died.
Killed the god by throwing rocks at him.
Exactly, yeah.
An interesting part of the argument that I can't remember if the developer was trying to tell you about this, Mathis, or if it was somebody else, but somebody's trying to make the argument that the weapons, there is a variety there, and it's kind of on the player to kind of develop ways to spice up the combat and find different ways to attack the enemies and find different things that you can use to your advantage.
I'd agree with that if the weapons felt different.
Yeah, I mean, there's that, and there's also the fact that there may just be, I don't even know.
My variety is I can attack him from 10 feet away or 3 feet away. That's real exciting.
I don't even know if this is like a game development issue I'm having in my brain, or if it's just something that may be even just my personal preference, but I feel like there is a line divided where it's either on the player or on the game itself to provide you with a reason to want to switch it up. So if you get into a game like this, for example, I'll even just use a very specific example from this game. There's a weapon called the Hydra Fang that you get at some point, where it's just 3 arrows that you shoot out that you can go gather back. So you get like 10 to 12 of those, and then you just fire out a volley of arrows all the time, and then you can just go pick them back up and do it again, because your mobility is so ridiculous to the point where you can just dodge roll through everything, and they can't do shit about it. So I was presented with that, and then I saw that and I was like, why the fuck am I doing anything else?
There's no point.
This works so well. There's no reason not to do this all the time. It'd be like if they gave you the golden gun in 007 from the first fucking mission. It's like, well, why the hell would I use the goddamn pea shooter here if I've got this magic bullet?
One shot kill everything.
Yeah, so there's a point where I guess you need to... I mean, I suspect that's why the weapon deterioration system was implemented to a degree. This is obviously just pure speculation, but it could be to where, like, well, obviously this is a little bit too strong, so let's, like, dial it back by making it go away at some point. But at the same time, it's just there's so many opportunities to get it back, and there's things like it, too. I mean, there's, like, javelins. I'm pretty sure I spent the majority of my combat, probably, like, 90% of my combat, just hurling everything I had at the enemy. Like, I would never, like, go in for melees because you could just use your big fat shield to block everything projectile-wise from them, and then you just hurl shit at them from 40 feet away, and it was just as effective. That's how I beat every boss that I played through anyway, too.
I think the reason that so much of the discussion about Apotheon focuses on the combat is because were it not for the combat, it's almost impossible to feel, like, bad about the game, I think. If it were not for the combat. Like, what this feels like to me is like a 2012, 2011 era Xbox Live Arcade game, something like Outland or...
Yeah.
I mean, I know that the developer doesn't like when I make the Mark of the Ninja comparison because it's different. But in terms of, like, the space that it occupies within, like, I don't know, the greater gaming sphere of releases, it's like a $15 indie release side-scroller that I kind of hits at least some overlapping niches there. But the combat is the only thing that makes me not want to play it, but you do it so much that
it's like 70% of the game or more.
Yeah.
Well, so I was going to interject, actually, because I didn't actually get a chance to play it, so I was just letting you guys go. But what do you feel about, like, the level design? And you mentioned it's a Metroidvania. How does that integrate?
It's not really a Metroidvania. It's Metroidvania-esque. It presents yourself. It presents itself with the illusion of being pretty wide open. But when you look at the maps and you start understanding the levels, it's actually pretty narrow with a few areas you can go check. There's as far as I played, there's not a whole lot of backtracking, not a whole lot of puzzles. The most complicated puzzle I came across was step on this button and fight enemies until the button is done.
So the main thing I want to know, though, is does your character evolve? Are there abilities? Do you change your way to traverse the environment? Anything like that?
You can get upgrades to your armor set, and there's... What's really interesting, too, is there is almost an entire inventory system that through a couple of hours of playing the game, I probably could have just completely ignored. And it wouldn't have even made that big of a difference. Sorry, go ahead. No, I hate feeling like I'm shitting on it because genuinely I actually did really like it after a little while. I almost want to finish the game. But there's things like that. I mean, there's stuff that... It almost kind of feels like it was put in there because they're obliged or obligated to do so.
Yeah.
Things like a merchant, like a black market merchant, upgraded weapons and armor systems, like weapon degradation, those
most
sorts
of which
things.
You can ignore.
Exactly. It's not really necessary for this game. It might have even been better off without it because it just feels like clutter at that point. There are merchants that you can just go to and realize... They're just selling weapons that I'm literally finding every 10 feet as I walk around everywhere. There's just weapons galore.
It's like, why do you exist?
Yeah, there's not ever really a reason to go spend your gold on almost anything, really. It's just like Matt had said, too, there's the crafting system in there. But, I mean, you almost always have all the, the health poultices and the grenades that you need because you just destroy shit and they're just laying around everywhere. It just gives it to you. So
I like that you described it as clutter because I hadn't thought of it that way, but that described it basically exactly the way that I think of it. Where like with the combat, if you give me like 100 weapons and I'm just picking up weapons like every 2 seconds and I look at my inventory and I'm holding like 100 different swords, then I'm like, oh, so it like I don't need to learn these. Like it doesn't. I almost would have preferred. It's very simplistic combat at least to learn. It's just 2 buttons basically plus your shield. If they had just given you like one weapon and been like, here's your weapon. And then, as you go on, maybe you can actually find a merchant and upgrade it, even if it just gives you stuff like extra damage. I would have been like, I'm attached to this instead of like, oh, this sword's almost dead. Throw the sword, pull out another sword, smash, 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 throw the sword. And again, the developer is right. That would be a different game. But I would
Maybe
like
that's
the
what it would
You'd like to play that game.
Yeah, I want
the
to play
combat in
that
that game more.
But I mean, you just got this big fat fucking bag of weapons, and it's just like, okay, well here, you just take that one, and that
exactly.
one,
That's how it
and
feels.
I'll
You
just
feel
throw
like
this
a-
on my back, and we'll
man.
go through the next
They'll
level.
eventually die. It
You really
sucks.
do throw the kitchen sink at people if you want to.
You do.
I feel
yeah.
like I feel like the reason I'm shitting on it so much too is because I can see the potential for a good game there, and it just some of the most important aspects of that game are some of the suckiest aspects of that game.
Yeah.
And the story and the presentation aren't enough to make me go, I want to finish it because it's just a chore to play.
Yeah.
It sounds very fragmented, like as
It
if
is.
the gameplay systems maybe outpace the ambitiousness of the actual game itself. So they're more concerned maybe about developing systems more than the actual fun part of the game.
Yeah, that would make sense.
I think the dev believes in the combat of the game.
He does.
Yeah,
he
he
very
does.
clearly does.
Yeah,
Which is
and
admirable.
Yeah, exactly. That's totally fine. I don't think he made like combat and was like, it's good enough. I think
No.
he had a focus for the design, and it works the way he wants it to work. But
And I just, if the combat works in a particular manner, for the love of all things holy, teach the player in the beginning of the game. Don't tell the player, click this button is how you attack. If the combat is deeper than you're presenting it, and you're not telling the player, 9 times out of 10, the player's never going to figure it out.
it's true.
Just teach me. If
Depends
the
on the
combat
game to some degree. Some games people go through the extra lengths to figure stuff out, but yeah,
I
for the
guess,
most part.
but when a game comes off as really simple, there's no reason for me to
Yeah.
believe that it's any deeper than what it's showing me.
You've given them every cue to believe that X
Yeah.
is the truth, and then all of a sudden Y shows up, and you didn't
Yep.
see that. I get it.
Exactly.
All this
Excellent, give
being
it to
said,
you.
Yeah, I know that.
all this being said, if you have a PS4 and PS Plus, I think you should give it a try for free.
Yeah.
Again, oftentimes it's like, don't waste your time. Like, even if a game is free but bad, don't waste your time. But I don't think Apotheon is bad enough to qualify for that. I think it's pretty good. And I think some people will like the combat. And I don't think anybody's going to be like, oh, I wish I didn't even try that for free. There are games like that happen. But
I think you guys still like it a little bit more than I do. I didn't like it very much.
I liked it. I honestly did. I want people to play it because I think it's pretty good. But I do completely agree. The combat is janky as fuck, and a lot of people will dislike that element almost to the point of not wanting to play it. But then again, there's a lot of really positive response to it outside of our circles. So we could be a complete outlier. Just happen to all share the opinion of it too. So. No, I still think it's a good experience though that people should check out.
Do you like Terraria combat?
Not really is the thing. So yeah, that's an interesting diversion too. But yeah,
what I played, I think is like a 6 out of 10. I would still recommend it because there's no reason not to, basically. And even if it came down in like a Steam sale, I might recommend it. But I don't know. I almost did finish it in spite of it, because it really does get carried by its theme and aesthetic, and I don't know. I thought the boss fights were pretty cool as well. The ones that I encountered, at least. Bear, did you just throw up in a bucket?
No. I'm
It's like just a minute.
I was so hopeful that I was gonna be over this goddamn cold by the time we started.
Oh
today.
yeah.
It's not going away. It's annoying as hell. But speaking of being out in the cold, Sunless Sea. The next game we're going to talk about here today. Now, this one, everyone really likes, so we're going to piss off a shitload of people because I don't think any of us really had a thrilling experience
I don't
with
think everybody really likes Sunless Sea.
God
Everyone
damn,
in my
dude.
Twitch chat liked it.
Yeah, it was...
It's you have to like story-driven games.
Yeah.
You have to.
Sunless Sea, based on the... it was some sort of...
A free-to-play.
Yeah, so the Fallen London,
yeah.
was what it was, and that has a lot of very very close knit community bonds to it. It's an exploration, it's a very Lovecraftian themed adventure game. You set out on a boat in the Z. Is what they call it, the Deep Dog Z.
Yep.
Fallen London. So it has something to do with. I really actually liked a lot Nick's first impressions of it, because he kind of summed it up in a way that makes it as ridiculous as it kind of sounds. Is that apparently bats have taken London and put it
underwater.
But it's
They
not
like
underwater.
picked it up and moved it underwater, but you're not underwater, but you can't die, but you can die, but everything starts with a Z for some reason, and it's all reading.
I
It's all
kind of took
reading.
it. I kind of took it as like people in London were like, "Whoa, that's a lot of bats." And then like a week later, they're like, "That's too many bats." So they tunneled into the earth or something, and they found this like underground cave system or something. But
used to be locusts that would do that kind of shit. Now it's bats. All right.
Yeah, I took it as basically being like, we got to get the hell out of here. That's too many bats to deal with.
Bats.
Can you imagine how many bats it would take to abandon a city like London?
Yeah.
You'd have to be like, there's no choice but to, like, we can't even fight these bats.
Right. And yet I had one on my ship, and I was using it for reconnaissance, and I don't quite understand why. Seems like a bad idea if those were the thing that sunk you.
That's the game, right?
Well, it's like in Half-Life where
it's
he's got the little, muncher friend up in his air conditioner, right?
It's just the right amount of snark.
Exactly.
It's eccentric.
All right.
I love that the tagline here in all caps, it says, "Lose your mind, eat your crew, die." But the majority of the gameplay is, just kind of gently sailing around up the coastline.
So the moment-to-moment gameplay in Sunless Sea, you play a ship captain, you got a crew, lots of resources to manage, and you basically, it's a little FTL-ish. You go from beacon to beacon, which are basically islands. On those islands, you have text-based encounters that can augment your resources, make you go crazy, give you stuff. And basically, the way that I took it is you pretty much sail around, and then you go back when you're almost out of resources to your safe harbor and trade your stories for money and then upgrade your ship, basically. And you have an overall objective, like make a lot of money or like upgrade your house to a mansion or... well, that was the one that I did, was like, I want to be rich, basically.
Of course you did.
So for real, this is a total aside, but that's a great joke to segue into this. My parents are going on like a week-long vacation out of the country, which they basically never do. And my mom sent me a list of things. It was like, we love you, check this out. And then number 4 on the list was like, if we die, here's the 4 people you have to call. Make sure to call the accountant because you don't want the life insurance counting against your income for that year. And I was like, Mom, if you guys die, that's not going to be the first thing on my mind.
Where were they going? Were they going into like an active volcano or something?
They're going to California.
Wow.
That's dangerous. Those Los Angelesians.
Be going to
At what
Iceland.
point do your parents start to be concerned about whether or not they're going to die on a vacation?
They're just, every time they get on any mode of transportation, they're like, if we die, here's 4 phone numbers. And
wow.
It's not like they're part of like a cabal or something. They're like, here's the lawyer, here's the accountant, It's not like here's the Grand Vizier, make sure that the tombs are kept in good array. Anyway.
But I got none of that sense of urgency about Sunless Sea. There was no list of numbers. I was just kind of like, okay, this is a lot of text, and now I'm sailing, and here's some more text, and now I'm out of supplies, and now I've abandoned my ship, and I'm dead.
I want to ask 2 questions about Sunless Sea to see you. I think this will determine where we fall on the Sunless Sea axis. 1, is Sunless Sea boring? Baer.
Yeah.
Mathis?
I would say no.
Sorry.
No, I don't think it's boring. I think it has boring moments, but...
Nick?
I'm going to say yes, but I think that it's fine for people that are interested in it.
Don't give him the caveat, man. He's trying to ask you that hard-hitting question.
Yeah.
Question 2 is, does that matter?
Oh, okay.
Does it matter if it's boring?
Doesn't matter if it's boring.
Well, wouldn't you say yes? Because if it's not, if it's boring, you're
matters
not
to
going to play it.
Yeah.
A lot of the time that I spent with Sunless Sea, I was like, I'm bored, but I'm kind of okay with it. Like I was like on a ship, and I'm like, my next island's pretty far away.
Well, I guess that there's a different kind. There's a different kind of boring then, because I mean, Escapist is boring.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Is Escapist fun?
No.
All right,
that's what I'm saying. Like,
I gotta take a step backward. I don't mind being bored. I'll play Bejeweled for 20 hours and I don't really care. It's that it had fantastic atmosphere and the ambience was really lovely. But the thing is, it was so mired in telling and not showing that I didn't get a lot of opportunities to really feel like I was immersed in what was going on. It was my own imagination creating mostly the whole game.
So I was bored, but I think it was my fault. That's how I want to save myself from the attack.
Because, you're like a victim.
No, so I played this in early access as well, and I had kind of a similar vibe from it back then. But I am completely okay with the fact that I saw and I read a lot of the narrative presented to me. I read like the majority of what was on screen all the time. And I kind of try to commit myself to a character and try to, you know, enter a sort of role play atmosphere, because that's almost what this necessitates. You kind of have to get into that mindset if you want to have a good time with Sunless Sea. And I couldn't really do that, so I ended up just, you know, kind of relying on the game and the gameplay itself to suck me back in, and it doesn't do that. And it's not supposed to. And I kind of recognize that, because that's what it's built on.
You have to really like the source material for the game to be really interesting. If you're like, Lovecraftian stuff's pretty cool, I could do without it, Sunless Sea is not going to be for you. But if you love Lovecraftian type stuff, I really think you're going to like Sunless Sea.
But it has a super high learning curve is the other thing. Like, you're not going to get what's going on for a while. After the hour I played, I had almost no idea still what I was meant to do other than click on a bunch of boxes.
I feel that way about Darkest Dungeon.
Oh. No.
Darkest Dungeon's mechanics are a lot less.
I figured that out in like 20 minutes.
Because Sunless Sea, it is confusing, because you have fuel and you have food, supplies. On top of that, you have fragments. Fragments you discover by going to new places. You get enough fragments, they turn into a secret. You can use those secrets to talk to your crew, and your crew will like give you more ambitions for their lives. Yeah, you get echoes. Echoes are the currency of Fallen London, or whatever it's called. You have hearts, you have iron, you have
mirrors.
And then mirrors, and the stuff that you get from like whenever I would like do combat or do an encounter and pick up something, it would be like, you found a trifling treasure trove of trinkets. And I'd be like, okay, what do I do with the trifling treasure trove of trinkets? And then you bring it back to like Fallen London, and somebody's like, hey, you got this like weird thing that you've never heard of, but I'll take it off your hands. You're like, all right. And I just kind of, you feel, at least I felt like kind of like I was the captain of the ship, but I was kind of just like, maybe this is intentional, but I was just kind of like a vessel in the game. I was just kind of like, I'm going to do things will happen to me. And I don't feel like I have that much, not necessarily control, but that much like awareness of what is actually happening. It's like, you get 15 echoes. I'm like, cool. You get 2 mirrors. I'm like, all right. Echoes and mirrors going through the roof right now. I have no idea what that really means.
Almost nothing refers back to real life. It's almost just an entirely different language that you have to learn. And for people that want to take the time to learn that language, that might make you feel really excited by that. But personally, I want to roleplay myself a little bit as much as the character that I'm in. And I was kind of imagining when I started playing this, it would be sort of like FTL in a boat. And as it turns out, it's FTL in a book.
Yeah, that's a great,
there you go.
Great tagline. That's the thing, is that like, it's billed, or some people have built it as kind of like a roguelite, but it's not really. It's almost like, to some extent, a visual novel.
Choose your own adventure.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. It's more of like a choose your own adventure type thing. There is, there's real-time combat, and there's roguelite elements, but it's the kind of thing that I kind of feel like, if you play a game and you're like, I'm going to beat this game, I'm going to beat this boss tonight, I'm going to build this base tonight, you will not, like, my brain is incompatible with Sunless Sea, where it's basically like, I'm going to spend time in Sunless Sea tonight. I'm going to enjoy.
So
you guys are not even representing it as much of a role play game so much as, like you said, you're kind of a vessel to experience Sunless Sea by. You get to watch Sunless Sea happen, much less put yourself in a position to be a part of it, right?
I never really felt like I was a captain. Like I never really felt like it was me in the game, and I think it's because I just had no idea what like probably at least 30% of the resources were.
Yeah. Or like autonomy. You don't know what anything means. When you do a thing, it's just here's another string of events that'll happen because you did a thing.
Nick is right. Like the game has its own language, not just in terms of like the actual diction of the game, which clearly has its own language, but like I never got to that point of competency that I got to in like an FTL, for example. You're like, I had this encounter, I lost this much health, but I got this much scrap back. Like that's an okay trade for this point of the game. Whatever happened to me in Sunless Sea, and maybe this is my fault, but I've spent like 4 hours in it. Right, that's the thing. Like, there's so many people that like it that I'm like, it's maybe not my fault, but maybe it's just incompatible with the way that I play games. But whenever I did an encounter in Sunless Sea, I'd be like, okay, I lost like 4 health or 8 health, and I got some crab meat, and my people are scared. Like, I don't know if that's good or bad, or if it even matters if it's good or it's bad, and if I'm coming into this with the wrong attitude or something. I was mostly just bored, though. But I think it's because I was aimless.
It's not.
I think it's because I was aimless. Mathis, you seem to have the most positive opinion of it.
Well, I like boring games. I like worlds that I can kind of just enjoy soaking up. It's not something I'd ever like. I don't think like you said, the moment to moment gameplay is boring. It's just a boring game. It's not something I do a series on. I might do a video on it just to kind of do it, but it's something that I like to, like you were saying before. If I have an hour at night to do nothing, I'll put up Sunless Sea and let's kind of explore and enjoy the weird world that it presents. And it's kind of built for that. It's built to explore and just kind of take in the weirdness that the world presents. It's not about the combat, because the combat has changed wildly from.
Oh yeah, it has.
I'd actually say I liked the early access combat a little bit better.
Me too. Yeah, I was going to make a mention of that. The fact that the early access combat was kind of one of the things that set it apart for me.
Yeah, I liked it.
It was really neat.
You disagree? You like the new combat?
You
like going in a circle until the other enemy falls over? Because it's real fun.
As opposed to clicking on lights until the enemy lights up.
Well, like but here's my argument to that is I think that combat early on would have been boring, but like FTL, the more shit you got in your ship, the more deep it could have been.
Mm-hmm.
Like you could have just bought upgrades and more weapons and stuff, and suddenly your little ship is now a fucking massive ship carrying a ton of weapons with a bunch of different abilities.
Shameless plug, if anybody wants to see that old combat, there is a video of it from
on my channel.
Early 2014 on my channel.
On my channel.
And their channels, and Nick probably will make one in the past.
No. I did want to make a point, though, about the exploration, in that I did feel like, obviously, the ambience and the environment were supposed to be a very big focus on this, and yet my experience in my exploration was I went as north as I could go, reached the boundary of a map, and it didn't tell me you can't go any more further than that. It actually let me go off the top of the map and then basically just flashed a screen that's like, you screwed up. And it's like,
oh, really?
Yeah, it was like, luck is a skill you have to learn. And then it sent me back. And it took away a bunch of my resources. And it's like, so I understand, like, in reality, that doesn't make any sense. And we're obviously playing a game, but yet you seem to be kind of playing both sides there. Right? Like, if this is an exploration game, you should probably tell me, like, I can't go there for some reason.
I would disagree that it's an exploration game.
It's
I
not?
don't think it's an exploration game. I think
Really?
it's a story game. I wouldn't say it's an exploration game. I think you explore parts of the world, but only in order to get to more story elements.
I think exploration is a core mechanic in the game and is kind of what the entire experience is based on, but I wouldn't call it an exploration.
It's not, though. I think the story is the main mechanic. I think the story elements that show up in the game are what drives you to explore. The main islands are set. They're not randomly generated. I would say most exploration games have a more open world than what Sunless Sea has.
It did say the further you get away from the central islands, though, the more it changes.
The outer map is randomized a little bit, but the core islands are not.
But I was excited to go see those outer islands and thusly ended up breaking the game by leaving. Like, no, not breaking the game, but going outside of the boundaries that they allowed me to explore within, which you could have just said, don't go there.
That's true.
Yeah.
Instead of punished me.
Or kill you with a giant, like, sea kraken or something.
Or kill me and tell me I can't go. Yeah, I screwed up. Not just punish me and let me keep going and be worse for wear and wasting my time.
Right.
In the Apotheon section, we were talking about how, like, a lot of the changes that we would make to Apotheon or Like the Sea would make it a different game. And, you know, I brought this up, but I kind of feel like the same way about Sunless Sea, where as I was playing it, I was like, how cool would it be if they, like, nicked the Darkest Dungeon announcer and, like, that guy was, like, reading some of the text. Obviously, all the text is insane. Like, I'm not text phobic, but I found myself, like, I would get out of the story, basically, because I would be, like, I'd get like a page of text and I'd read it and I'd internalize it, and then I would sail for like 3 minutes and I get to an island, and then it's kind of like that sailing is like a non sequitur to another encounter. So I never really felt like I was part of a story, more like I was just like an aggregate of tales, like a list of things that had happened to me, rather than like an actual like a focused like linear story. And by the end, I'll admit, I was like just reading the bottom paragraph of the text. That's on me, right? Because you gotta, if you want to get the most out of the game, you gotta read it all. But at the same time, I was like, at that point, I decided like this isn't for me.
And if you get to the
UI doesn't do you any favors either. Sorry, Baer, I didn't mean to interrupt. But
I mean,
sorry.
God damn it!
It's all you.
No, the UI. No.
It's like if you get to that point, then you're kind of hoping So you skip the text because you're just like, oh, I just want to get back into the gameplay. But that's kind of the core elements that you're skipping out on is, continuing to allow yourself to sink into the world because it's presenting the interesting elements of the game via blocks of text. So, for example, think of a game where you'd go to like a tavern and you'd run across some, little scallywag that you have an interaction with, and you would actually do that. That would be your interaction, your part of the game. But in this, that's just a paragraph. That's just what happens that you read about, and you're like, oh, that's cool, that happened. I saw that happen just now, and now I get to make a decision based off of that. So it's like a choose-your-own-adventure book in that sense. But if you ever get to the point where you're just skipping by the paragraphs of text hoping to get to the next part of the game, then unfortunately you end up you're just missing the entire game by doing so.
Yep.
I think in the end, I think Mathis is right that this is a game that is for maybe a small section of the population is awesome. People that they have that kind of patience and they're into those kind of games to begin with, and they like the theme and the atmosphere and the setting and the writing, all of which are admittedly well done. But for a large section of people that I probably belong to that are maybe a little bit more mechanics focused or even like blind to anything except for that almost, then I get to the point where I'm like, why am I even playing this? Because like I'm not enjoying reading it anymore, and I'm bored when I'm sailing between the islands. And maybe that's why I like the new combat, because I'm like, I can do something.
Yeah. See, I like the old combat better because it fit with the game a little bit more, I think. I just feel like the new combat, you just go in a circle. Sail in a circle behind him until you kill him.
Like there are games, and this came up in Apotheon too. There are games that I'm comfortable saying with like, this is not good.
Yeah,
I think Sunless Sea is a good game that is not for me or maybe many people, but a lot of people
two games
like
for this episode that all of us didn't really like, but we think that a lot more people will probably enjoy them.
Last time we had Darkest Dungeon and Dying Light, and we're both like, those are pretty good.
Yeah.
I think they got to make sure it's very clear in their marketing what exactly the game is, because those taglines that you mentioned about eat your crew and all that, that implies a very visceral sense of gameplay that isn't present in that game. Yeah. Sure, those events could happen, but you get a different sense from how they're being confrontational and bold in that writing, and yet there's so much subtlety and nuance in what's actually happening in the game. So it's going to grab people by accident, and I think myself included, who just got a completely wrong perception of what it is that this game was meant to be.
Yeah. Hey, here's a positive review of the game from September 22nd, 2014. 2D top-down exploration adventure set in a Lovecraftian-esque London. Tons of interesting dialogue and encounters. Mysteries await in the Deep Z. That's from youtube.com/BearTaffy on Steam.
Wow.
Wow is right.
Oh, man.
You're part of the problem there with that marketing hype. I would have bought it based on that.
Don't hold me accountable for shit I said last year, man. That's not what this podcast
I was a different man back then.
I grew up. So, all right, then. God. Hang on. I'm Googling real quick for shit that Ryan said about Apotheon when it was, in the beta build back in 2012.
I don't think I played it, actually.
I hadn't even heard of the game until it came out.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I had sent in
at PAX, didn't we?
Yeah, at PAX's, I had sent in appointment requests for it, I think, ages ago. How long has everybody played Sunless Sea for? Because in the screenshots, I'm seeing like some sweet underwater colossi and like seemingly big boss fights. So, I mean, it doesn't really matter if it's not engaging enough to get you through those first couple of hours when it's maybe a little bit more simplistic or a little bit more boring, even to put it not in a great context, but maybe it blossoms a little bit, but I don't think I'll ever get there.
I think because you were asking about like God, what's that game? The Escapists. How later on does it get more rewarding? And I think that's a big difference is that with Sunless Sea, there we go. Words are escaping me right now. Sunless Sea, the later you get, you're not at a risk of losing everything. And I think that's what makes, maybe the boring things a little bit more palatable because later on you're going to be able to do these cool things and whatever, and you're not going to lose progress, where something like The Escapist is the other side of boring, where it's boring, and if you fuck up, you're put back to that boring aspect of the game. It's boring for a lot of the hours, and if you fuck up, when it gets interesting, you have like one chance. And then if you mess that chance up, it's back to 3 hours of being bored.
And when you die in Sunless Sea, you do have the opportunity to pass some of your resources on to your next character, which I guess it kind of it shortens that period where you're becoming competent, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't understand why that's a mechanic or like how you exist in that world.
Well,
are you actually alive or dead or what?
I was telling these guys I thought it would be kind of awesome if that mechanic was fleshed out to the point where well, I mean, obviously this would be, again, changing the entire way the game is played, but if you could take, like, your lineage and bring them out and give them the option of saying, like, well, I want to carry on my father's legacy or my mother's legacy, or I want to, kind of create my own path and go into, like, these uncharted waters and do an entire new sect of exploration, but that's not really how that carries on. And it's just like you said, like, that whole idea, it's trying to be a little bit more than it actually ends up being, to the point where you might as well just restart if you die, because that's basically what it boils down to. Which a lot of people kept making the argument that that's the true roguelite, like that's really what it started out as, was that idea of you lose everything but not really, but you kind of do anyway. And,
Isaac's like that.
Well, yeah.
No, but it's got permanent unlocks as well that happen.
Let's say you lose everything, but not really.
The difference, and I want to point out that I don't think that Sunless Sea is a roguelike at all. But a lot of the comparisons are made because of the fact that, to some extent, it's procedurally generated and different things. There's a randomness in your encounters that is not determined by your skill, I guess, is where I'm pulling at that. It draws from like a stat and then it rolls. It's more of like an RPG, basically. But my thing with FTL, my thing with Isaac, is that I think what really draws me to those games is that Isaac is an hour long, but it fits the kind of narrative or gameplay beats of a 20-hour game where you start super weak, shit happens, you get stronger as time goes on, and eventually you see if you're strong enough to kill the final boss. And all that is compressed in FTL within an hour and a half, 2 hours, and in Isaac within an hour, and Spelunky within half an hour to an hour.
Yeah.
But in Sunless Sea, you got something sort of similar, although a little bit more aimless, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But it's elongated to the point where I can't see where my next destination is, where it'll be like 6 hours or 10 hours or 12 hours, or I actually don't know how long a life in Sunless Sea takes. And I just kind of lose focus, and I'm like, why am I doing this, I guess?
Yeah.
It takes a lifetime. That's what you find out at the end.
Sunless Sea, more like aimless sea. Huh? There we go.
I like the aimlessness.
I'm not gonna clap for that.
You like make your own. You make your own goal, but it didn't draw me in. And there's a Steam review that I wanted to read because I think
is it Baer Taffy's?
It's not Baer Taffy's. I would love to just read that once per podcast. But this is from Steam user Skynet. He's got 40 hours on record. It's a negative review. Most of the reviews on Steam are positive. It's about 8-1, positive to negative. Okay. This game has an amazing mood. It's got great writing. The idea of trawling a black underground ocean is compelling and fascinating, but I can't recommend it. Why? The actual gameplay is boring, repetitive, and simple. You'll be doing the same routes repeatedly for tiny profit margins for hours until you can afford the most minor of upgrades. I have to impress the hours part. Unless you look at the wiki, you will spend literally hours trawling back and forth in a very slow ship. There won't be a ton of danger unless you didn't buy enough food or fuel. In short, if you've been tempted by comparisons to FTL, turn back. This game is not a fast-paced roguelike ship sim like FTL. And then he references another game called Ambrosia's Escape Velocity, which I've never heard of. But
yeah,
anyway,
I love that game actually.
I mean, that's fitting.
If you heard all that,
I still like it, but
it's not over yet.
Oh, okay.
If you heard all that and you still want in, welcome to the club. It's moody and interesting. I just feel like players entering the game are being done a disservice by comparisons to other roguelikes, especially FTL, when it is nothing of the sort. Thank you, Skynet. That sums it up for me, basically.
Yeah. Well, let's just read other people's Steam reviews for this section of the show, I guess, right? That's going to be better.
Oh, we did an Amazon review earlier with that Sonic outfit, right? So.
Oh yeah, I guess so.
I think if you are the kind of person that is going to be bothered by the fact that, unless you look at the wiki, you're going to be spending hours just maybe not accomplishing as much as you possibly could, and I consider myself on the borderline of one of those people, then you're going to have a harder time enjoying Sunless Sea. Well, also, failure sucks.
It's definitely not. It's definitely not for the. I don't think a majority of the people are going to like that kind of game. But if you're willing to sit down for a couple hours every night and kind of invest time into it, I think there's a lot to like there.
I think the people that would probably enjoy this know it at this point. Like they're well aware of what they're getting into, so we've cleared the waters. Yeah.
And it's a cool game. It's new. It's its own unique thing, which I respect, even if I don't necessarily enjoy playing it.
It's a really cool game coming out tomorrow. It's so cool. It's Frozen.
Cortex.
Frozen Cortex.
Ah.
Don't facepalm that. Don't facepalm that. I took a stab at the segue.
Yeah,
so cool, it's frozen.
We need to get Dracula Fetus to animate that.
We do.
That's a good idea, actually. Heyo.
Heyo.
Dude, the Dracula Fetus animation of the Weber Cooks was probably my favorite thing I've ever seen in my life.
The segues are off the chain right now.
I don't even know. See, I'm not even involved in that one. I don't even know what the fuck
I feel like I have to at least address it, considering how much I promised people that we would talk about it. But,
I was too busy being trapped.
Well, Mathis needs to hear what this is all about, so you should give him the breakdown.
Please do.
I will. So, back in my youth, in my old college days, I was a part of a class. It was an intro to film and news broadcasting kind of mix. Okay. And we had so it was Weber State University. That's completely up in the air now. That was like it's kind of funny. That was like the one element of my personal life that I've been trying to keep under wraps for a little while.
You went to college?
Yeah. Oddly enough, like that was the one thing where I was like, okay, let's taper off a little bit here. Let's diving into let's write my autobiography now. But it was Weber State University, and they had a Weber State news program. And in that class, you had to create a segment that would air on the news broadcast regularly. And that was actually what spurred Game Taffy back in the day when I was working with my colleague there, who we would make little video segments, and that's where the second half of my name, the Taffy, comes from. So there's a little nugget for your noggin right there. But
oh boy.
Oh, you gotta get the cat in here for this one.
She's needy.
So that was what we did, and elderly gentleman by the name of Stephen Reed, registered sex offender Stephen Reed. I feel like I have to preface that every time now.
You know this after the fact, of course.
Yeah. And he came up with a segment called Weber Cooks, which was a cooking segment where he tried to make dishes that college kids would be able to prepare at school. So not just like cooking on a budget, but cooking in a dorm, or even more to the point, cooking in the common area, or cooking in the convenience store in the like the hall, like stuff that honestly shouldn't be eaten. stuff you shouldn't consume or look at.
It doesn't need tutorials, really.
I'd like to point out that one of these dishes was a jar of cheese sauce mixed with a jar of chili in the microwave, and then served with a whole bag of tortilla chips. And I would love to see like a college student walk out of the common room with that and be like, "I got dinner, guys."
If only it had blown up to the degree that it had, like, in the moment, because then I would be able to witness people, ironically eating spaghetti out of a microwave.
Ironic spaghetti.
But, I mean, I can't even really convey to you the magic and wonder of what this is without you seeing it, because we have, it's just a poor old 65-year-old man who I always felt bad about ripping him a new one whenever we would talk about this, because just a poor old dude going to school to try to relive the days of his youth. But he was kind of a piece of shit, I'll be totally honest. He was a dick, and it wasn't even just normal dickish behavior. He was kind of adamant. Offender. Well, I mean, that kind of turns you into an asshole just in and of itself, right? But
right.
He was so adamant about this idea that he would, shoot down any kind of advice, any kind of like...
So he had an ego about it, too.
He did! It was the most ridiculous thing in the fucking world, the fact that he had kind of a pretentious demeanor about him toward the entire endeavor of, I'm going to put some goddamn chili in a bowl and microwave a plastic knife, and you better look at me like I'm goddamn Emerald Live up in this motherfucker, because this is
shit. Bam!
This is how kids are gonna survive out here in the real cold hard world, man. They're gonna rely on me to make stuff happen.
Teach them how to cook.
Yeah.
In the Rice-A-Roni video, there's a lot of comedic...
It's like you're interviewing me for a fucking newscast. It's like
James Lipton,
the Rice-A-Roni video.
So I can search Weber Cooks?
You can.
Yeah.
You'll get a lot of results. I'm not in it. I'm the behind the scenes guy.
Oh man, this guy looks like a sex offender.
That does.
I don't know if I'm comfortable with you saying that, even though it's the literally truest
thing
possible. But in the Rice-A-Roni video, he puts
There's
the
a lot of
rice.
views, man.
He puts the rice in the bowl, and then he puts the butter, and he microwaves the plastic knife for like 2 minutes. He just leaves the knife in the bowl and then pulls it out. And then at the end, he's like, "You add the water," and then
I was gonna say, why is he talking like this?
well, he adds the water, and then he says, "You microwave that shit for 12 minutes."
Yeah. No, he doesn't say
He
microwave
leaves-
that shit, but he does say
No, he
microwave
says,
for 12 minutes.
"Pop that in the microwave for 12 minutes." The more I've watched these videos since talking to you, the more there's a narrative thread that can be tied between them. The microwave is an important player. The door doesn't latch properly a lot. That he keeps coming back to like hit him, and then he has to like push it, but he doesn't want to let people know that it doesn't work. So he's kind of like sneakily pushing it. But then he closes the door, and then he just opens it again anyway, because you're always using the microwave for steps 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
Today
great.
we're making rice. God.
He's a very charismatic individual. You're right.
He looks like he's dying. It's possible.
We
Maybe
easily
he ate all that chili.
I like this comment. I feel sorry for Bear Tap who had to film this. He experienced it live. He could have stopped it.
Wouldn't the worst thing though to have been if he blew up and you were always living in his shadow from this point on?
You
Yeah,
are
he got
now.
on
I am. Yeah, you say that like
it's
it's a hypothetical, man.
Oh.
I'm the fucking underdog to this.
Why
whole
is this on
charade
the
now.
the channel name is Koala in my salsa?
Well, that was
That's
the
another
5th dish we
preparation.
made. That was one of the ones that didn't actually make it to YouTube. Was the
Oh, man.
koala and the salsa dish? But
Chili cheese and nacho dip dinner, baby.
so no,
Oh man,
I mean,
that's the greatest opening. Hello, wild cats. God.
Become a wildcat today.
there you have it. There
There
you
was
have
the
it,
film.
Wildcats.
There
I
you
was
have
the-
it.
I was the director, producer, and videographer, depending on the day. But
So sorry.
well, that was the
Executive.
thing too. As part of the class, you had to do those things in order to get full credit for the class, for the course. And I happened to make myself available for the days which the Weaver Cook segments were being filmed.
Thank God.
Yeah, and
This wouldn't have been possible without you.
the greatest parts of them were probably the waiting. So
Of course.
when he puts the spaghetti in the microwave for 20 minutes, if you can only imagine 20 minutes in a room with Stephen Reed, I mean, that right there, those are some golden
Oh, that's
life
another
moments,
TV
but-
show. 20 minutes in a room with Stephen Reed.
On the
20 minutes with
WWE
20
network.
minutes with Reed.
Yeah.
Oh man, just you guys. Him, he didn't sit down. I'm sure he stood behind the counter, reveling in the moment. Well, the ever-increasing smell of microwave spaghetti filled the
Oh,
studio.
He's like, this is gonna make me famous.
And I know a lot of people are going to want to know if we ever ate anything. Fuck no, we didn't eat any of that shit, man. Like, that was...
Did he offer it to you though?
He never ate anything he made.
What did he do? Throw it away?
Never in
after?
the studio. Yeah, it went straight in the trash, man. I'm not even making that up. He never even, like, so much
Creamed-
as... He never even so much as looked desirably at the dish, much
Creamed
less
corn and potatoes.
put that
I'm
shit
excited.
in his mouth.
In the spaghetti one, he just strains the spaghetti like straight either onto the floor or into the trash can. Neither one is the right place for boiling water.
Yeah.
You don't put that in like a vinyl trash bag, it's gonna melt it. And on the floor,
Oh.
you're just a goddamn animal, aren't you?
Well, I mean,
You know how
you
I
say
feel
that
about
like it
melting.
reached any kind of warm temperature whenever we were doing
yeah.
the
Wait, was that
cooking
you
process.
talking in the background?
Maybe. I doubt it. We were.
No, it was
Wait,
probably
he
that's,
looks like you. I'm watching the. He's making creamed corn and potatoes, and he says something, and he looks off. Oh, look, there's the green screen. Good camera shot. There. See the green screen on this camera angle.
Hey,
Oh,
man.
you adjusted it. Good job. Good job.
I'm not gonna take any goddamn rap for this shit.
the cream
That was
corn and
all high
potatoes.
quality.
Oh,
I-
that was some janky editing right there.
If I had to choose which one I had to eat,
Oh, there's a good question.
That looks so gross.
I'd probably eat the rice-a-roni.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Oh, no, not without the plastic having been microwaved to begin with. Okay.
That's an important element of the dish, man. That's
That
the
is.
chef's
Okay.
touch right there.
I'll be straight with you. I'd probably eat the chili cheese nachos.
Yeah.
The creamed corn and
How
potatoes
bad
look
could that
so disgusting. He
The thing-
mashes the potato, like the whole potato, with like a plastic fork.
Yeah.
And he pours a can of creamed corn on top of it, and he puts it in the microwave. That is how he cooks.
The chili cheese nachos, the tortilla chips are safe.
Yeah,
They were
it's
in a
kind of
bag.
hard to
You're gonna
fuck
eat
that
them
up.
without the dip.
The cheese sauce and the chili have just been microwaved. That's
That would
okay.
be-
The spaghetti.
I think we
pride
pitched
in
to
this?
Joe Rogan a resurgence of Fear Factor, and we just bring Stephen Reed onto the show. And just all right, so he'll make something.
The
Well,
weeb
we've
factor.
given him 40 different foodstuffs with which a microwave is necessary. Have at
He's
it.
gonna make you a meal.
I
Yeah.
wish he could have kept it up, man. I would love to see Stephen Reed, sorry. I would love to see him make like a cheese pizza by like microwaving a piece of bread with tomato sauce and a Kraft single on top of it.
God,
The Thanksgiving special would be the best
Oh,
ever.
no.
God.
Man,
I'm pretty sure the Thanksgiving special would just be like a Hungry Man TV dinner, and he'd be like, you just put it in the microwave.
I wanted
For
to see him
however
wedging a
long it
whole
says.
turkey into the microwave, just pushing it in.
You come back in 2.5 years.
oh, that's awesome.
Bear saw some opportunity in that one. He got in on the ground floor.
I did.
If
No.
anything, it's a disservice that there was not, like the project wasn't longer.
Just the
The way he
one of those-
fondles those potatoes looks like he's got experience.
Dude, don't ever use the word fondles when you're talking about Stephen Reed. Jesus Christ.
He just goes and just good stuff.
No. No more. I've had to relive this way fucking more than I ever intended to in the last few weeks.
Well, the whole
man, so
everyone
I'm
knows
good.
now. I mean, it's
Yeah.
kind of out now.
Yeah.
Right.
Great.
I love how many times that I thought I had told Ryan and then I didn't, and he just discovered this on the freaking show one day.
This guy tried to tell me that I've heard this story like 4 times before. I know myself well enough to know that I would have freaked out. I would not have forgotten about this.
It was a beautiful
And I
moment, though, that you actually got as excited as you did when you heard that news.
Dude, I've been down with those Weaver Cooks videos since like 2012.
Right.
That's how
that-
you learn to cook.
You got the man behind the microwave and the camera right here. It's amazing.
Your
I
first,
actually-
your first home dinner for Kate was one of his recipes.
chili cheese nachos
That's what won her over.
by Chef Stephen Reed.
Be like,
I lived with a guy for a while who was not a sex offender, but
Okay.
was about, like, culinarily speaking, was about one level above Steven Weber. He would take like a cold. This is his go-to, Stephen Reed. He would take a cold pan and put oil in it, then slap a pork chop down, and then crank up the heat there. So starting out in like a really bad situation. On the top side, he would just slather whatever green herb was closest. So it could be oregano, could be parsley, could be rosemary. Doesn't matter.
He's like,
the
you smell
look.
that? You smell that? Smells good.
He'd
See
wait
that
for it
green?
to heat up, and then he'd flip it, and then he'd let it cook on the other side and season the other side, and then he'd put it on a plate, cut it in half, and like 50% of the time it was still uncooked in the middle, and then he would throw it in the microwave for however long was necessary for the meat to be brown.
Oh my god.
And he would,
Yeah,
While
the
putting it
sear
back
came
on the
out.
stove,
He would
going
eat-
in the microwave.
one pork chop with like 12 pierogies on the side, and that
Not
was
with the pierogies, though.
his go-to meal.
I was gonna say, if he did that so often, wouldn't he know how long approximately he should leave it on the oven at that point?
He's just one of those guys. He's a really nice guy, actually, but he's just one of those guys who's like, I don't care. It's energy.
Oh,
Like, I'm gonna put it inside
Right.
of my body. I'm like, well,
Steak tartare. He's going to turn into a turd eventually, so who cares?
exactly.
Man, I mean, my go-to was Hamburger Helper when I was living out in the apartments by
Yeah.
the college.
Helps you
I
live.
I just never had the audacity to try to turn it into a regular segment on, public access news. That was
yeah.
I drew
Maybe
the line
should've.
there. I guess
If nobody had told him, it could have gone further. He could have made it to the local news or public access or something.
You'd be
We
on
could have
Fox
100
right now.
episodes of. I want this documentary of Stephen Reed in his room being like, I'm out of ideas.
Just pacing back and forth. Just like writing stuff furiously into a notepad.
Microwave cocoa bean. No, it's stupid.
Throws it on the ground.
Yeah.
I used to be a genius.
And like in his head, like the thumbnails of like rice-a-roni, creamed corn. So I can never live up to my past successes.
the YouTube
I'm never gonna make
views
another
just-
chili cheese nachos.
Yeah.
Goodbye, Wildcats.
Oh god, did you end that with like a hanging scene? Jesus
Yeah, I
Christ,
think
that
so.
was
At the end of it,
dark.
he kills himself.
Man,
Yeah.
all right.
He crawls
well.
into the microwave.
Oh
That's-
god.
That's
Well,
just-
on that note,
it's a wonderful lifestyle ending.
Yeah.
That's what could happen
I guess.
if we had a world without Weber Cooks.
Man, well, on that happy note, how about a little bit more Nick's weird games?
Yeah.
Oh,
We
yeah.
need
I
a
didn't
jingle
get
to
one.
play when he does that.
We got a commission one. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Nick's Neared Games. Nick's got a whole... Yeah, I think I said it wrong. Yeah. Nick's got a whole bunch of weird-ass games. He's gonna get the games. He's gonna bring them back. We're gonna say what's on the back. But
whoa! Hey! Nice!
That was great timing. I was really tempted to just stay over there for a while and let you go. I care about you too much for that. So this one is a little bit less weird than last week's. You may have even heard of this one.
Okay,
probably a bunch of the people out there.
BioShock 2.
On PS2 somehow. Here we go.
Let's see it.
Oh, yeah!
I love that
this
game,
dude.
It's great.
This
so
isn't
you know
even
of this.
Yes,
yeah.
I spent many an hour watching my friend play it. Actually.
Mm-hmm.
So for those in the audio world, this is Mr. Mosquito. This is a game about playing as a mosquito in a Japanese family's house.
The bathtub level.
Yeah, no, that right there. That was what made this a cult phenomenon, man.
Pierce her tit and drink blood.
Pierce her tit and drink blood. The Mathis.
That's a new T-shirt.
Nick's Weird Games. Pierce her tit and drink her blood.
So does anyone know exactly what you do from a moment-to-moment basis in this?
So
Not really.
Yeah, so you're flying around, and basically there's like weak points show up on the body, right?
Right.
And you like kind of line yourself up, and you have to like dive into the weak point and drink their blood, and like if I remember correctly, manage their like level of if they notice you or not, because then they can like slap you and kill you or do damage to you.
It's a one-shot deal.
Yeah, so you have to like kind of pay attention to whether they're noticing that you're drinking their blood or not, and then get off and fly around and do it again before they're at a different spot of their body.
I want to read the back here a little bit because there's always some great bylines and text and stuff. So the back quote, the main one says, "You are Mr. Mosquito, an uninvited guest in the Yamada's family home. You will need to drink as much of their blood as possible to survive the winter. They know you are in the house, and they plan to take you out."
And the great part is the story that happens over the course of time, how like super aggressive about killing you it becomes.
Yeah, there's 12 levels in the Yamada household. And
they bring like the National Guard in at some point, right? They got to bring the whole damn state to take you down.
Yep, that's what it is.
I got to admit, I've watched a couple of videos. I never actually played this one myself.
Really? It's fun. Yeah. It's a fun time.
I have too many games. I just never got around to this one.
Nick Weird games.
I just played it for the boobs.
Yeah, those awesome early PlayStation
boobs were the best kind of early polygonal boobs, man.
It's true.
Those are the go-to.
They had the best blood in them, really.
Yeah.
There you go. You just dive in.
Really square kind of polygonal blood.
Mm-hmm. It was good, though. It was delicious.
Well, that's Nick's Weird Games. Nick's Weird Games. Pierce her tit and make her bleed.
So cool. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, thanks for watching Roundtable, I suppose. Is
episode 2 in the bag. On a scale, let's compare to last episode. Was it better than last episode or worse?
I like it because we disagreed, but then on the games, we didn't like them that much.
It's true.
We're actually going to review our own show at the end of every show now? Is that
that's another segment we're going to do.
I'd give it a 4 out of 5 on iTunes.
I'm with you. I think that was worth a 4.
There you go.
Not a 3.
That's ultimately up to you. You might even give us 1 extra point just for being honest about it.
That sounds like a 5 now, actually.
You're breaking into the meta. You're breaking into the whole meta that I had to set up, and now people know the secret. Fuck!
By Oprah?
Oprah?
Oprah's The Secret. It's a book.
Oh.
She didn't write it, though.
Bye.
Who cares?
Okay,
Oprah is the secret.
I'm going to try to do this live, and if it sucks, then I'll do it in post. But we want to say a big thank you, the shout out at the end of the show to our Patreon supporters. You can go to patreon.com/roundtable if you want to consider making a contribution to us continuing to make this the thing. Thank you very much to Max, Christopher, Casey, Jeff, Robert, David, Matt, Julian, Hired Help, Caspian, Kevin, EP Diablo, Logan, Yo-Yo Fee, Nick, Full Grown Gaming. We all like Full Grown Gaming. I'm going to butcher this.
He's okay.
He's all right. Gies van der Vet. I'm sorry. Every time I say that, I'm going to have to say I'm sorry, following it up. Laurel, Grace, Peter, Thomas, Michael, Zachary, Unix388, Sebastian, John, Michael, Justin, Morton, Scott, Urbane, Muskif DP, Chris, Nim, Graham, Will, Logan, Jay, Lindsay, Josh, Sam, Christopher, Titan, Luke, Paul, Nathan, Rusty Hole.
Wait, whoa, Rusty Hole?
Nathan Rusty Hole.
Wow.
Chris, James, Donut Overlord, Jose, Benjamin, Jordan,
It's going to make a WD-40 joke.
No time for that. Positron, Brizzle, Andrew, Sebastian, Cooper, Marvin, Nathan, Luke, Ian, Christoph Waltz apparently is supporting the Patreon page. Christian, Julian, Lucas, Dudok22, Jesse, Jack, Tobias, Jack O'Carr, Doug, Hammerschnitz, Tom,
Hammerschnitz?
Hugh, Big D Docking Dude, Joseph, and Connor. Thank you all very much for your contributions to the Roundtable Patreon. And thank you all very much for watching. We'll be back in 2 weeks, which is going to be, that's going to be the 6th of March.
What the heck?
The next episode. And
it's
early
PAX East Day.
So,
next
it is.
It'll
be talking about the pre-PAX East schniz.
Indeed, that is going to be hype. Early access listeners will have access on the 5th, and early access listeners to this particular show will have access on the 19th. So
I hope Dan Giesling is at my house early so he can be a part of this in the background.
They would already know if they had access to it, Baer, for this show, because they'd have to watch.
I'm just letting them know how hype it is that they are experiencing this in the moment, man.
Okay.
So what's our next goal, right? We're pretty close to the next thing.
Oh,
on
yeah,
the
good
list.
question.
It's we get together and stream games together.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the Roundtable.
We're real
Live.
close to that one.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys can make that happen if you're interested in watching us stream games together.
And then the one after that is weekly. Oh.
Weekly, yeah.
I don't
That's
Don't say
I don't want to be near you guys. Like,
What the
once
hell?
a week?
The ugly bi-weekly duckling transforms into a beautiful weekly swan. I'm just stealing that from me writing it a little while ago. But yeah, thank you very much for watching this episode of Roundtable. We love you. We'll see you next time.
Goodbye, Wildcats.
God damn it. God damn it. Right?
This podcast is entirely supported by you, the listener. To consider supporting us as well as seeing the ways in which you can become a part of the show, visit patreon.com/roundtable.